Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to this meeting of the Middletown Township Board of Supervisors. Would everybody please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Ms. Corporal, would you please call roll?
Mr. Kizak?
Here.
Ms. Hanna?
Here.
Ms. Kane?
Here.
Also in attendance tonight is Township Manager Mr. Ratliff, Assistant Township Manager Mr. Valla, Township Solicitor Mr. Esposito, Township Engineer Mr. Kessler, Chief of Police Joseph Bartarelli, Director of Building and Zoning Jim Ennis, Director of Parks and Rec Par Capera, Director of Finance Laura Huckelbridge, Director of Public Works Eric Gardemeyer.
Thank you, Ms. Corporal. We have a few upcoming meetings and events. First, our budget workshops are going to be Monday, May 13th, 2025, and October 20th, 2025, both at 6 p.m. So that's the next two Mondays here in the municipal building, 6 p.m. Those are our budget workshops. That is where the Board of Supervisors goes through the process of developing our budget for next year. So please come out and be part of the budget process. And then we have our next Board of Supervisors meeting, which will be Monday, November 17th, 2025, and that'll be at 7 p.m. We do have a few special items tonight, and the first is a Fire Prevention Month proclamation, and that reads as follows. Whereas Middletown Township is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living, working, and visiting our community, and whereas fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, whereas home fires kill more than 3,500 people in the United States each year, according to the National Fire Protection Association, and fire departments respond to more than 360,000 home fires per year, and whereas Middletown Township's first responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection education, and whereas the 2025 Fire Prevention Week theme, Charge into Fire Safety, Lithium-ion batteries in your home. These batteries power so many of the items that we use every day: phones, laptops, e-bikes, toys, power tools, and more. While they are efficient, they can also pose serious fire risks if they are damaged, overcharged, or improperly stored. Be this proclaimed by the Middletown Township Board of Supervisors this 6th day of October, 2025. Next, we have another proclamation recognizing Community Planning Month in Middletown Township, and that is as follows. Whereas change is constant and affects all cities, towns, suburbs, counties, boroughs, townships, rural areas, and other places, and whereas planners can help navigate this change with data-driven insights and expertise that provide better choices for how people work and live, and whereas community planning provides an opportunity for all residents to be meaningfully involved in making choices that determine the future of their community, and whereas the month of October is designated as National Community Planning Month throughout the United States of America and its territories, and whereas the celebration of National Community Planning Month gives us the opportunity to publicly recognize the participation and dedication of appointed Planning Commission members who have contributed their time and expertise to the improvement of Middletown Township, and whereas we recognize the many valuable contributions made by the professional community and regional planners of the Middletown Township and extend our heartfelt thanks for the continued commitment to public service by these professionals, now therefore do we, the Middletown Township Board of Supervisors, hereby proclaim October as Community Planning Month. And finally, we have a proclamation for Disability Employment Awareness Month in Middletown Township, and that reads as follows. Whereas people with disabilities have long strengthened our economy and expanded our nation's possibilities, during National Disability Employment Awareness Month, we recognize the immense contributions of disabled Americans, and we recommit to delivering America's full promise of equal dignity, respect, and opportunity for every American. And whereas national legislation has made significant strides towards equal opportunity for people with disabilities, there is more work to do. People with disabilities are 3 times less likely to have a job, and when they do, they are often paid less money for doing the same work. And whereas the National Disability Employment Awareness Month, we celebrate all the people with disabilities who have moved our nation closer to realizing that ideal, and in the process have made America more prosperous, inclusive, and humane. And whereas the Middletown Township Board of Supervisors celebrates the progress we have made, may we continue to open the doors of opportunity even wider for people with disabilities by advancing access and equity. And now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Supervisors of Middletown Township that October be proclaimed as National Disability Employment Awareness Month. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead if you don't mind.
We were asked also to announce that Fire Prevention Expo will be this Saturday, October 11th, at the Restaurant Depot from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. This free family event will feature our department alongside with all 4 fire departments. The day will include emergency vehicle displays, public safety demonstrations, a Temple Med flight helicopter, food trucks, vendors, and much more for the community to enjoy. So please come out.
Thank you, Ms. Corporal, and thank you to firefighter Riley Collins for reminding us of the expo. Okay, that brings us to public comment on non-agenda items. Is there any public comment on non-agenda items? Just come on up to the podium, state your name and address. Yes, sir.
Hi, Dave Cahill, 462 Cynthia Ave, Pendel. Former member of the Pendel Fire Company, and I think everyone's aware that I've been asking lots of questions about the loan documents for Tower 8 for over a year. And I got a phone call from a friend last month, telling me that you guys were discussing the MOU for paying off Tower 8. And I thought that that was kind of strange. Eden, the last time we talked before Labor Day weekend, you said that you were going to take a look at the loan documents and you were going to give me a call. Did the fire company use the truck fund money as income on the loan docs?
That's not exactly what I said, but it's good to see you, Mr. Cahill. What I said when you and I met, we talked extensively about Tower 8, about Pendel, about the Volunteer Fire Service, and how to support them. And we also talked specifically about apparatus within the region, how that's blown up in cost, how that can be funded and supported by the township supervisors, and what that policy direction looks like. What I did say, to just clarify your point, is that if we get the loan documents and if I have the chance to look at them, it would become a public record, and I would let you know so that we don't have to do this process of trying to get it. To answer that question, I do not have the loan document. That didn't become necessary for me to review from a legal standpoint as the Board of Supervisors considered entering into an MOU to pay off the balance of that truck to allow it to be part of the regional fleet.
No one with the township supervisors or anybody, any of the managers, nobody took a look at the loan documents before you signed into the MOU?
The only loan document that we received that we needed was a note to determine the payoff amount.
It's kind of funny that you're speaking now and you didn't say, I don't think you said a word in the year that I was asking questions about Tower 8. I think it's funny that you're finally opening up now. So during that meeting last month, you said that Eden and Mike Kizak, you both mentioned that I okayed everything. Once everything was explained to me, that I was all right with the MOU agreement and purchasing the tower.
So what I said was that you were in agreement with my understanding of why I thought it made sense for the Board of Supervisors to fund the purchase of apparatus for the fleet, which would include aerial devices. And that was really a fire tactic conversation, you and I both as firefighters understanding why engines and aerials are necessary in the community, that you and I sort of saw that the same way.
Yeah, I don't think that is what you said, but and it's all on YouTube. Anybody can go back and
it's all there.
Yeah, I thought that I was that I was a big somebody in the area, and what I said meant something. I'm nobody. I'm just here asking questions. I'm a taxpaying resident in Pendel Borough, and you guys are offering the paid fire services out of Pendel Fire Company, and I got a tip. I got a tip from somebody about how they were struggling with members and money, and I was just kind of wondering how they could afford that big expensive tower that they bought. So my question is, was truck fund money listed as income on the loan documents for them to get, and correct me if I'm wrong, was it a $700,000 loan?
$630 something. You said 700, it's 630.
Yeah, I'm assuming.
Yeah, the original loan would have been more than that. The payoff was 630.
Yeah, I had a very credible official from Middletown Township tell me that it was 700,000, so that's why I come up with that number. So you did show some numbers on the video board.
Yeah,
The
630 was
payoff-
the payoff amount.
The payoff was 500, I believe it was 569,000. Something like that. And yeah, I'm surprised that none of you have the numbers. You have no, listen, I have the contract. Would you like a copy? I have a copy.
Yeah, I don't have the
contract.
numbers memorized. To say that we don't have the numbers is not correct. I don't have them off the top of my head in this meeting. But we reviewed them extensively at the last
I
meeting.
have copies of the contract. Would you like a copy? Can I approach?
This is not an agenda item, we're not voting on anything. I mean, you're certainly welcome to pass it up, but I mean,
No, I just want to know what you're, making sure that we're all on the same page. and-
we have all these things, we just don't have, I mean, this is not an agenda item, so we don't have them with us this evening. We don't have numbers available immediately at our disposal to answer your questions. I mean, if you have questions about the numbers, we can certainly get the answers and get back to you. We're more than happy to do that.
Yeah, so Frank Farry's been very helpful, because Frank can't lie, he's our state senator. So he's telling me that Pendle Fire Company was supposed to buy a straight stick, and it's in the contract that the Pendle Fire Company was supposed to buy a straight stick. So if the loan for the tower was 700 or 600, a high sixes, I'm gonna round it up to 7. That means that the township supplied about $800,000 for the tower, and the fire company financed almost another 50%. They took a loan for another 50% for the tower. Is that common? Is that a common thing to do?
I'm not really understanding what your point is. I apologize, I really don't know what you're driving at.
So you just bought 3 engines. You bought one for Langhorne Middletown, you bought one for Humeville, William Penn, and you bought another one for the township. It was, there was a number put on it, not to exceed 3.72 million, correct? The 3 engines? There was an article in the Levittown Now, that's where I'm getting my info from. So was there a not to exceed number put on Tower 8 when the Pendle Fire Company was looking to purchase Tower 8?
Yeah, I mean,
We're buying that one. The township is purchasing through this new apparatus program, the new ones. Am I correct on this, right?
Yeah, so you're asking me
don't know
questions
why.
about Tower 8 that long since predate me. Number
or
one.
any of us on this board, for that matter. I mean,
Yeah, and number two, the process that the township went through to purchase the 3 engines that you're referring to now would be different than funding the balance of a note for an aerial device that no one objects to the fact that should be in the township fire service.
Okay.
So there's a little bit apples and oranges there.
So I'm a little curious why 2 people are no longer here after I started asking my questions. Stephanie's gone, and your fire chief, your acting fire chief is gone. And it just, after I heard what you were talking about at last month's meeting, it raises so many more questions about Tower 8. So if truck fund money, Eden, you told me at our meeting that the budget money that the fire company gets from Middletown and the truck fund money, you felt as though was considered income, correct?
I was theorizing that it could be possible, but I'm uncertain.
So if that's true, that every year that the fire company got money from you, from the township, that it was income, wouldn't they lose their private, independent, nonprofit status?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, just seems a little funny. Is the township, are you on the up and up with the Middletown taxpayers about the paid firefighter crew that's operating out of Pendle?
I don't even know what that question means. What do you mean? Are we on the up and up? What do you mean?
Are you on the up and up with the taxpayers about how that's all being,
Everything we do with the
How
Board of
it's all being
Supervisors,
funded.
everything we do in the Board of Supervisors is public record.
So-
Every dollar we spend is publicly available. Every dollar we bring in revenue and every dollar we spend is all public. So can you be more specific? I don't know what you mean.
So Middletown Township is footing the bill. The Middletown Township taxpayers are footing the bill for the paid firefighters out of the Pendle Fire Company using Pendle's engine and calling it Engine 244 during the day. Right?
It's a lease agreement.
It's a lease agreement,
Right.
but the taxpayers are footing the bill for the firefighter, for the full-time firefighters.
What do we lease the engine for? $20 a year? $20 a year.
Yeah, but you're paying the crew,
We have paid firefighters that are township employees.
paying the crew 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 12, I think it's 6 to 6. The township's paying,
Of course, we pay our firefighters.
okay, so,
And their job is to protect the residents and the property of Middletown Township by fighting fires,
Yes.
by doing fire prevention, by doing inspections. That is our fire services department that has existed here for way longer than I've been here. We've always had paid fire staff.
so do your taxpayers know that the 4 boroughs are getting free fire protection from the township through the firefighter program, and your taxpayers are footing the bill for what's going on in the 4 boroughs?
So that's not exactly true. So the volunteer fire companies are incorporated in the boroughs, and they provide fire services to the boroughs. The township does supplement, as we do with many things besides just fire services, because that's what neighboring municipalities do for each other. It's very often that municipalities neighboring us, Lower Makefield, Newtown, other townships, when we have fires, they come and help our residents too.
Right.
That's how fire services works. We don't ask them to pay us money.
The paid crews are also fighting fire in the 4 boroughs, and it's not costing, I know it's not costing me a dime in Pendle Borough. It's not costing the taxpayers in Hughesville any money, and it's not costing anybody in the 2 boroughs in Langhorne.
Okay.
Langhorne Manor and Langhorne Borough. So are your taxpayers aware that they're footing the bill for that? Have you made them aware, and was there ever a resolution put on the ballot asking them if that was okay to do?
No.
No. Okay, so basically,
To be clear, this didn't start with this board. This has been going on for years and decades.
yeah, your paid
So-
firefighting crew was put together in 2018. Been around for 7 years.
And we have discussed, we have had open meetings where we have discussed
And you're,
the.
Yes.
I
Your question
think
was there a
it's-
resolution?
So-
funny, God, is
They
it
should, so
funny?
if they're paying attention, they should know.
Yeah, is it funny that you're finally opening your mouth too, after a year of me being here answering questions? The only thing that you said to me when I asked you if you had any input on this, you said that I kept coming here and I kept asking all the same questions.
We don't know
And I asked
what
many
your
questions.
agenda is.
Why don't you know? You guys are the supervisors. You're managing the township.
You're asking us questions about Pendle Fire Company that we don't have control over that they're doing.
You know
You don't have
everything
a-
there is to know. That statement's absolutely wrong, because according to the contract, Pendle Fire Company is supposed to report everything to you. In fact, page 3, section 3 in the contract, it states something in there that the fire company shouldn't be signing into any agreements involving the township. Your vote for the MOU last month, it was smoke and mirrors. You were already co-owners of the truck. You supplied the $800,000 for Tower 8. And then you tried to signed into some agreement to pay off the tower, because I wanted to see the loan documents that I still haven't seen. You're still hiding the loan documents.
We're not hiding anything, and that's
You're
not
hiding the
true.
loan documents. You absolutely are.
Both the statements you just made are unequivocally false. So-
Are they?
Yeah, they are. So
Well,
if you,
then why haven't I seen the loan documents yet?
ask Pendle Fire
No,
Department.
no. Did you pay?
I-
Did you pay? Are you co-owners of the truck? Did you pay the loan off?
The loan was paid off, but we paid the principal balance of the truck. We did not enter into an agreement with that existing loan document.
So the loan document should be available through the township now that you're co-owners of the truck.
The loan is paid off. The loan doesn't exist
Doesn't
anymore.
matter.
It
There's
sure
still
does.
a loan document
No, there's
that'll
not.
prove You don't think what happened here was a cover-up?
Absolutely not.
No?
No.
Doesn't look good.
Well, that's your opinion.
Doesn't look good. It is my opinion. It's opinion of some other people too, because the comments that were made last month by some other people that came to the microphone was, why are you rescuing the Pendle Fire Company?
And we
That guy was right.
And we explained over and over that we are not rescuing the Pendle Fire Company.
Really? You did. They couldn't afford the payments.
We agreed that this apparatus is necessary to fight fires in Middletown Township.
Listen, I get that. I get all that.
Then why do you object to us owning Tower 8?
Because they couldn't afford.
So what?
They had no income.
So what?
To afford that
So
$700,000 loan. What do
So
you mean,
what?
so what?
Who cares if whenever they bought this vehicle, whenever they bought it, they couldn't actually afford it? What difference
So
does that
is
make
it-
to you?
Is it okay? Is it okay for the other fire companies to go spend whatever they want on their trucks?
We just bought trucks for all the fire
I know
companies.
you did, but is it okay for them to ask for whatever they want at whatever they want, whatever they want to spend?
It's ancient history. I mean, this is the
It-
past.
it is. It
We're
is
not.
ancient history.
We're not concerned with what happened in the past. We're trying to improve fire services going forward. That's all we're trying to do. It's all we've ever tried to do. So you want to keep bringing up things that happened years before any of us were even involved, and documents that we weren't parties to about an entity that we are not part of. Go to ask them these questions. We
Mike,
don't have answers
Mike,
for you.
I told you, just like falsifying a loan documents against the law, so is collusion. And it just looks so bad.
How could we collude in
looks
a
so
document
bad.
that we weren't a party to? It wasn't our loan. We didn't own the vehicle. We didn't take out the loan. We didn't sign the loan. What does that have to do with Middletown
You
Township?
made everybody think that you were going in halvesies on the truck on Tower 8 when you already owned half of it. You were
We
already
didn't.
co-owners.
We weren't.
The MOU meant nothing.
Okay.
The MOU meant nothing.
I'm not going to argue with you.
I think the chief needs to do an investigation,
Okay.
okay? I really do. And if I okayed everything, Eden, if I was okay with everything once you explained it to me at that meeting on Labor Day weekend, before Labor Day weekend, why did you tell me to go to the FBI?
Yeah, at this point, you're mixing and matching things that I said in order to string together a statement. These things are not in the context of the conversation that we had. What I suggested is that if you believe that there was fraud with the loan document, which I highly doubt, by the way, if you believe that there's fraud, it would be the jurisdiction of the FBI, and you could call them. And you said, well, you weren't going to do that. You would just keep asking us questions. To which I said then, and I'll say now, I don't have the answers to your
You
questions.
told me. You told me to call the FBI, and you asked me point blank that if I was wrong, you asked me if I would apologize. And I told you I would. And I'm not
Those comments are out of
apologizing.
context.
I'm not apologizing until I see the loan documents. Thank you.
Other public comment on non-agenda items. Just come on up to the podium. State your name and address, please.
Todd Philippi, 1325 Old Lincoln Highway. It's right across from Our Lady of Grace Cemetery. And first of all, in a bit of a different tenor, I'd like to thank you for your service in the township on behalf of the residents. And I would like to address two items that are related to each other. One that this board, I know, is not responsible for, but if you could bear it in mind when it comes to future considerations. And then the second one is something I'm requesting immediate action on. My prepared statement will take just under 4 minutes, so I'll read that. The first issue is rising taxes and fees. We've lived on our property since 1991. In 2002, the township sold the Water and Sewer Authority to avoid raising property taxes. While that delayed a tax increase, it immediately increased the burden to residents. As what we were paying quarterly, we began to pay monthly, effectively tripling the cost. Today, we have some of the highest public water and sewer rates in the country as Bucks County Water and Sewer Authority raised their rates another 15% this year, and the water quality is not good. In 2014, an earned income tax was enacted. Since then, millage rates have continued to rise. Last year, the county, school district, and township raised millage rates by 8.3%, and this year the school district added another 10 points to their millage. Refuse collection costs increased 19% this year, along with the switch to automated collection, which has not gone very well on our road. Now there's a stormwater maintenance fee. My bill from Berkheimer Tax Services included this little insert that said that if the fee is not paid by the end of the year, we will put a lien on your property. Now, while this is only $60 and may not seem like it's excessive, the potential for continued increases is what is alarming. In Philadelphia, a similar stormwater fee was enacted in 2010. It has now risen to $240 a year, even for a small row home. So here's issue number one. The steady rise in taxes and fees for the residents of our township has significantly outpaced inflation and the consumer price index. This disproportionate increase places a significant burden on residents, especially those with fixed incomes. I would ask you to bear this in mind when contemplating any future increases, and consider if it is proportionate to inflation in the CPI or if it is taking a higher percentage than that. The second issue relates to the stormwater fee fairness. In 2006, I built a new house to replace the historic one that I struggled to restore for 15 years. During construction, the township enacted an ordinance for any new construction requiring 100% groundwater recharge of stormwater. This was in response to the flooding along the Neshaminy Creek. For our home and 2 neighboring lots on Rosewood Avenue, compliance required soil testing, engineering, and installation costs totaling over $36,000. None of our stormwater goes into any facilities that the township maintains. The same is true for most new construction in the township since that time. To have already paid significantly to manage our own stormwater and then to be required to pay an annual fee is not right. I raised this issue with the acting township manager when the first bill came and was told that all properties must pay regardless. I followed up with an email asking what could I do to complain about this and didn't receive any response. In Philadelphia, a similar universal application was successfully challenged in court, and exemptions were granted to properties that manage their own runoff. Given our significant prior investment to ensure zero stormwater discharge to the Neshaminy Creek or township system, I respectfully request that you waive the stormwater fee for properties that infiltrate 100% of their stormwater on their property. So I'll leave that with you, and thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Do you want to talk about the stormwater issue?
Yeah, I would be happy to. So I'm glad you shared. A lot of folks, about 7,000 folks who hadn't paid the stormwater impact fee from the original bill that went out in May, received a second notice within the last week or two. So for anybody who might be hearing that is current, that is true. The other thing I wanted to share is the Stormwater Advisory Committee has been meeting a few times already, including later this month, I believe on the 21st. The information is on our website. And at that meeting, they've been really working through developing a stormwater fee credit policy, so providing credit to properties that have a variety of, either on-lot stormwater improvements, or also some credits for residents, such as providing rain barrel workshops and things like that. That is something that is still in progress, that we expect them to be making a recommendation to this board and talking about it in this forum in November.
Okay, all right, very good. Yep, thank you. Philadelphia has a similar policy for homeowners that enact such things, so thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment on non-agenda items?
Hello, good evening. How you doing? I'm here for Molly Woods. We call her Molly's Acres. Molly's 19 acres at Maple Avenue and Flowers Mill Road, and Molly's 15 acres at Bellevue Avenue and Playwiggy Field, we call it, where Oliver Heckman is. That used to be the old Playwiggy Field for Langhorne High School, Langhorne Middletown High School. I'm here for 2 nice kids from 257 South Hawthorne Avenue. A group of us for the last 6 years, we met at the library at Pine Street, and Pine Street, and we did a survey. By the way, I'm a national and international corporate real estate expert. Okay, I built over 95 7-Elevens from Maryland to Beach Haven, and 1.2 million square feet of shoe stores in historic central business districts in the Northeast. I work with the CEO of Woolworths, We used to tour the New York ADI, and I did a couple articles with the New York Times, and the article pertains to what we're talking about. I took a team of us, and we said, you know, we want to get Molly's acreage on Maple Avenue and Pine Street. We watched all the beatdowns on Bellevue Avenue for the last 5 years with Toll Brothers, okay? And we said we want to champion the Langhorne, Middletown Township, and all the historic boroughs around there. We did an analysis, and we can look at 2 acres or 100 acres and tell you how it's going to finance. We do all historic architecture. We design homes, townhouses, Irish pubs with slate roofs. We'll have 2 of them there. Italian restaurants. We take the acres, and 51% of the project will be owned by the ladies of Langhorne. 49% will be owned by our architects and builders that we pick from the Northeast. We have architects that can design anything, and that's it's a good story. And we wanted to also we would be able to champion $700,000 for the Langhorne community. Okay, wanted to do some special things for Langhorne. $150,000 architectural fund for all our Middletown Township, Unionville Borough up to George School. It's a really neat trade area. I don't think people really know. It's 6 miles from George School to Unionville. There's 4 historic boroughs that blend in with Middletown Township. You don't see that anywhere. And when the corner of Flowers Mill Road and Maple Avenue is that's like the main corner. When you from Middletown, it's like the center of town. So we want to do a masterpiece on that corner and do it right. We don't do track stuff, and we don't. We know the Upper Dublin Promenade very well. I've been invited to go see that many times by builders, actually. So, but yeah, we're passionate about architecture, and really we want to do an educated article with the Bucks County Herald, or after 5 years of being ignored. And I'm used to being ignored. I've been ignored a long time. Okay, we're going to champion all the families in Middletown Township, from Quincy Hollow, Foster Hollow, to Swan Point, to George School, to Unionville Borough, and highlight the 4 boroughs. And we want to, the projects they're trying to do on Bellevue Avenue, so it's just wrong for our historic area. Okay, I think I'm the only one that really we only work on projects that are connected to a historic boroughs. Okay, where you can connect, like Maple Avenue. I know people don't know, but we want to be able to walk from. In 1995, we looked at doing sidewalks from Tarrington Estates along Flowers Mill Road and down Maple Avenue, which would be nice sidewalks all the way to the Langhorne Friends Meeting House. You know where that is? Okay. And people, when we look at your township, when you leave the Dunkin' Donuts on West Maple Avenue, you enter a historic district. When you leave the Dunkin' Donuts on East Maple Avenue, going underneath Route 1, that's historic. It's all, to us, it's historic architecture. Okay. And years ago, Middletown Township and all the boroughs were one township. So, but we did a lot of stories. We have some great stories of 2 of the families. My daughter's going to be here tonight. They're at a field hockey game, and 2 of the families there, our grandfathers went to Langhorne Middletown High School, graduated in 1939, and their grandfather's probably the greatest architect that ever lived in Lower Bucks County. So, but we want to go on record. We want to get a story hopefully get a story with the newspaper, so we can champion. You can't call one person and it gets lost. Okay?
I appreciate you sharing that information and your history. I mean, the things you're saying, they sound wonderful.
Yeah.
Obviously, the difficulty is what you're talking about is, these are privately owned properties. They're not township properties.
Yeah, and the thing I say, when 2 nonprofits own the properties, it's not like my 2 nonprofits on it. Wood Services, okay. Molly's been here since 1921. My family's been here since 1917, okay, and some other great families since 1809. So there are 2 nonprofits. There's a school district, and it's and Molly Woods, and it's just do the right thing, embrace the legacies and historic architecture of the community. So, but
thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Gribbin Jr., and I live at 1131 Jeffrey Lane. As a resident of Jeffrey Lane and a homeowner that backs up to the access road, I feel like I need to address a few concerns that my wife and my 2 children, plus some of my neighbors that are also here with me, are concerned about with the RC3 project of the superhighway. It's just high level, obviously, because I know this is a big project and don't want to waste a lot of time, but we want to start with the communication from the township. There's a few questions we would like answered, which was when did the board approve any plans to allow the removal of the access road? I know it was a joint effort between the township along with PennDOT, and I know that, PennDOT has a lot of say in this, but we don't feel that our voices were heard enough when they made a decision, or whomever it was that made a decision to eliminate the access road starting at Fox Court, and I believe it goes all the way through to Bellevue due to the cloverleaf and all that stuff that's taken part over there. I understand that there were some studies that were done, I believe by the federal government along with Middletown, and I apologize if any of this is incorrect, and you can correct me if you need to. So that was one. 2, a neighbor of mine, a neighbor that's here actually, has taken her time and viewed most of the minutes that go back all the way back to prior to February of 2023, which was the first time that she noticed that anybody at the board had mentioned the project by Ms. Payne. And all that was discussed was the timeline, not necessarily the removal of anything. There were 7 residents that expressed their opposition to the project at that time. So we'd like to know, the other part is why we haven't had any communication or informational packets sent to Parkland Manor, the Langhorne Manor, I know Langhorne Borough, and I understand that those aren't necessarily your entities, but it's a joint project that's taken away a lot of thoroughfare, and it is going to impact hundreds, if not thousands of people daily. And the reason why we bring that informational packet up is because, as you're aware, the storm stuff, the trash pickup, and everything else, we were getting flooded with informational packets about everything that was going on like that. And we just feel that it may not impact the entire Middletown Township, but it does impact a huge demographic of individuals. The other part is safety. The access road provides a safe passage for vehicles entering and exiting at various points of Parkland, again, the manor, on both sides of the superhighway. And by doing this, and you will now be turning Jeffrey Lane, Fox Court turns into Jeffrey Lane, you'll be turning that into the new access road. There are dozens of children that live on that strip right there. And not only that, but again, the access road provides entrances and exits throughout Parkland. And I know for myself, I use that access road to navigate within Middletown to get to Pendel and to get to various parts so that I don't have to drive through residential neighborhoods, knowing that there are a lot of kids that are playing out in the street. You have Poplar Park, you have Sunflower Park. These are all parks that are township parks, and as any of you have driven by there at any stretch of the time, they can get flooded with kids and all that stuff. And I thoroughly enjoy having kids talking and laughing and being able to walk through their residence without fear of being struck. I would hate to have to be here to discuss a child being hurt or killed due to this. We are just asking, and again, we're not unreasonable, we're just potentially asking for accommodations to possibly keep it open to the Humeville Avenue. That would again allow the residents and individuals of Parkland and those other communities to go through our area on the access road, providing an entrance and exit onto Humeville Road and Humeville Avenue, which are actually geared towards that flow of traffic. Those roads are meant, I believe they're state roads, which means they're wider, they have sidewalks on both sides, they allow for safe passages for pedestrians along with the travel that would be needed. Today, again, other residents had taken measurements, and the median that goes to the back of our homes is 15.5 feet. And according to the plan by PennDOT, they only need 12 feet for the shoulder. So we're just wondering, again, why the removal of the access when there's plenty of space there for emergency vehicles to take care of accidents on there. Highland Avenue was never meant to handle the traffic that PennDOT is proposing. I don't know if any of you have driven down Highland Avenue recently, but anytime there is a landscaping vehicle, tree service, food deliveries, or any types of delivery trucks, it's almost near impossible for 2 cars to travel at the same time. By doing that, you will be eliminating the emergency vehicles' ability to get to the highway. Again, Parkland Fire is right there. Currently, they're able to navigate through the neighborhood using the access road to get to an accident. recently I was able to use that as a car drove off of Route 1 and went through my backyard, and we're still fighting that. But so now you've eliminated that, and now they have to go down Highland Avenue, go around the proposed circle to enter onto Route 1 in order to utilize the shoulder, which at this moment they can use the service road and get to those pedestrians safely and quickly. In one of the proposals, there is a proposal to have a bike and pedestrian walkway, which now would utilize the access road. So we're just wondering again why we would be moving a roadway that's already there for this purpose, putting it onto a residential street, and then moving the residents to a road or a pathway that's actually much closer to the highway. And again, with everybody knows, anybody can get hurt, flying objects, things of this nature from there. My third part would be is to kindly ask that you guys put up or at least on your website, and again, if it's there, I apologize, but just to make it more transparent, to have a dedicated part of the website for projects and things of this nature where everything can be put up there so all residents have a place to go. The only place I can find it currently is by trying to navigate PennDOT's website along with, I believe it's Bucks County Transportation, a nonprofit organization that does this. But again, it's very difficult to find all the stuff that's going on at the time. We would like all applicable studies that were completed, traffic, noise, environmental. I had organized a meeting with Joe Hogan back in July of 2024, and at that time, we were instructed that there was an environmental impact study that needed to be done at Bellevue and that the project might not even happen. And now we're being told that it's being pushed through. There was a noise study done, and again, I'm not entirely sure, but word of mouth is that where they put the device was on the inside of Parkland and it wasn't even on the residents that are facing the highway or even close to that. So we would just like to know what studies have been done, where they've been done, and when. Because again, from what our understanding was, is that this traffic study was done in, I believe it was September of 2021. That's COVID. That's not going to accurately reflect any data that's relevant today. Same goes with the noise and traffic. I thank you for hearing me out, and I, along with many of the residents, look forward to working together to keep the access road and open an open dialogue to potentially have it as an agenda item, because I do know that if we can advertise this, we could pack this place. And again, all you're going to hear is the same thing, the same sentiment, which is, please keep it. We all want it. If that means, I believe PennDOT had mentioned at the time that they were only going to service up to Fox, and if Middletown wanted to continue with the access road, they were more than welcome to continue with the project and keep that road open. So we're asking you guys to kindly consider it and just let us know if we can be of any service and anything like that. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
I'm David Horn. I'm not nearly as prepared as my neighbor. I've only been here a month. I was not happy to find out about the clover leaf. He's absolutely right. It's going to totally destroy traffic patterns in there. We had a bed delivered. The delivery truck completely blocked Jeffrey Lane. Nobody would have been getting through there any time of day. I was down at the township park on Saturday, and I noticed there's traffic parking on both sides of the street. It was a little tight getting through there. I'm thinking, that's residential streets. They park there. How are emergency vehicles going to get through there? I guess I'm a little concerned that I'm finding out that the residents were not really kept in the loop. And on top of that, there's now an alternative plan to what PennDOT is proposing, that instead of the cloverleaf, they're going to have roundabouts to mitigate some of the safety issues. And apparently one of PennDOT's big concerns were the curbs along US 1, which have no business being on a high-speed throughway like that. If you hit a curb at that speed, your car is probably going to flip and end up in his backyard. I don't know if that's how that's happened. Like I said, being very new, I was concerned that Yeah, there was, actually, this board had not taken any vote on it and did not have an official position, but was generally in favor. They weren't opposed to it, and that was of concern. You know, we live here, you know, and, you know, I'm learning some of the roads around here, and they can barely handle, you know, the traffic that's on them. And having all this stuff being diverted off of US 1 and coming through here, you know, cutting south to go down to Homeyville, you know, cutting through to come around and go up Fort 13, it's going to get ugly. It's going to get really ugly.
I mean, maybe Mr. Kessler, Mr. Valak, and I mean, the fundamental issue is that it's a state road and it's a state project. It's PennDOT. We're just a little township. I mean,
But
you say
with enough grassroots
No, I know, but-
opposition to it,
Well, but
PennDOT
understand-
may be willing to change their mind.
And you listen, as residents, you are free to mobilize whatever grassroots, you know, agenda you want, and I encourage you to do that. I'm not
And we are.
suggesting otherwise. I'm just saying, there was some suggestion that maybe this was a township project, or we
No,
we voted
no.
on it, or I mean,
But
it's-
it would be nice if the township was behind the residents after determining what the residents actually want.
I'll add to that.
Yeah.
The project RC3, right, it goes through the different R numbers that they have from basically the interchange with Route 1 working up this way, right? So RC3 is the section that primarily goes through Middletown Township. The PennDOT website for the project would be your best place to get their latest information. And we can obviously share that if you need, but what they have on there as of today is that they're in their environmental assessment phase. So they had their kind of conceptual layout of the section, and then they go through an environmental assessment phase, and then they go into the actual design phase where they start to really put it together. And they always have stages where they then involve the public input. They have meetings. They'll, I'm sure, reach out to this township and talk about how they're planning to put everything together. I know a priority of this project for PennDOT, from what I've heard and what I've read, the people I know there as well, is that the access roads along the stretch of Route 1 now pose a high risk for just vehicle accidents and things like that. Understanding that you are more in favor of them not going away,
Feeder
but
roads or
that
the
they're
highway
looking
itself?
to improve overall safety and then overall layout of their highway and their right of way. Where they tie into the local roads is where that interaction with the public really steps up after this environmental assessment phase. So there's nothing in the way of any kind of construction even listed on their latest updates until at least 2029. So after environmental is when they really get into the local meetings and getting feedback from local neighborhoods of the things they actually
I don't want
propose
to wait until
after environmental.
2029 and find out it's.
No,
too
I'm
late.
saying you'll have that coming
Yeah.
in after the environmental phase, where they say, here's where we're looking to tie in, and then they look for the input back from the local streets, the local neighborhoods of the folks that are living there. So I don't want the impression to be that the township kind of just let everything go through. Obviously, it's not to that point yet. They had conceptual layouts of what they want to do with their right-of-way, and then we'll be much more involved, I believe, after their environmental assessment completes, because that then gives them more limitations on what they can and can't do in certain areas. And then they can really get back to the drawing board of what they really want to propose. And that's where I'm sure we'll have a lot more information to share for the public.
And we did reach out to PennDOT, it was, got to be a couple years ago now, asking them to come and do some sort of opportunity for the public to come and present feedback, and they declined. But I think the reason maybe largely was that it was just premature. They're not even close to really the design phase yet, which is when you would start trying to get input. So it sounds like you'll have an opportunity.
They did do a public update back in April, and just to answer some of the questions from both gentlemen, and I apologize if I miss any details, the website for anybody who's interested is us1bucks.com, so that's the project website for all three phases.
It's linked to our website, actually. If you go onto our website and you go up into community, and then you scroll down township information, it says US 1 Improvement Project. And then actually, if you go into project information under section RC3, it gives you all that information. And then there is, under frequently asked questions, it says that comments can be submitted at any time via comment section of this website, or you can email info@us1bucks.com. So I would suggest, I would definitely encourage all residents to email that. It's info@us1bucks.com.
All right.
And if I could add to, just to the comment about kind of the different design concepts and the township's formal feedback on that, referencing 2023, I think it was actually a year or two even prior to that. I want to say 2021, there was a presentation made about the then conceptual design, and that was when the kind of trail concept was talked about. And as Mr. Kessler mentioned, PennDOT was the one who is really driving this whole project forward, and their feedback on the access roads, which are township roads, they were advising that they wanted to do away with a lot of the access roads. There's pieces that have to remain for people to access their properties, but on the whole, as they exist today, they are strongly advising against the current design because it is, in their belief, less safe. And the conversation
The
that was
current
had
design,
back in...
yes, I agree.
Yes.
I agree.
And
But
back
there's
in...
an alternate design that addresses the safety issues, but doesn't drive traffic into the three boroughs.
Sure, and I think to Ms.
When you say alternate design, what are you referring to?
We had an engineer at the meeting at the funeral home about a week ago who presented a design that eliminates the curbs along US 1. It leaves the feeder roads in place. And
I'm sorry, just so you as a resident group hired an engineer to prepare an alternative?
he was at the meeting.
I think this
Again,
was the
I am
Langhorne
terribly
Boroughs.
new
Oh, the
to
borough.
this.
Oh,
Alternate
the borough.
engineers.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
got you.
I'm very new to this neighborhood. I don't know where all the bodies are buried yet.
Yeah, I'm just trying to, I understand.
Okay.
I appreciate it. I was just trying to understand where the alternate design was. Okay, all right.
Yeah, but there is an alternate plan, and it sounds a lot better than PennDOT's.
Yeah, okay, I understand now.
Sure. I think just to summarize, there is not a final plan in place. They're still in the public feedback environmental investigation phase, so there is still more to be updated. And we can certainly check in with PennDOT to see if there's any latest reports that we can share.
Understood. We just want to make sure that we keep the conversation going.
Sure. If anyone would like to just share your contact information with our staff in the back, we'd be happy to stay in touch with you about this issue.
It may be a good idea. I know
Something-
we've been trying to do it recently, is have a residents meeting associated with this, so that way we can at least maybe show them the plans that exist, show what's out there, show what our engineer has reviewed so far, and then potentially get, some of their comments.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And as a first step to that, this Friday, I have a meeting with Senator Ferry actually about RC3, about this project. So I'll be able to go back to the recording and make sure that we understand all the comments that were presented here tonight. And I can bring those to the meeting on Friday as well.
Hi, my name's Bob Griggs. I live at 1144 Jeffrey Lane. I just wanted to say, just 1 minute, just for some clarifications. So it was a transportation engineer under contract at Langhorne Manor Borough, and he was at the meeting at Dungeness. And he's worked with PennDOT, and he presented this plan that basically retains the service roads. So that, now what we were told was that Middletown Township had already approved the project as far as PennDOT was concerned. And that was, I guess, why we're mostly concerned. It was almost like Middletown Township has given their approval and that's it. And our concern is we feel that the project still needs to be looked at, and we would like that if Middletown Township has approved the project, that they basically back off a little bit and let some alternative designs be presented. Our main concern is that service road. I live on Jeffrey Lane. When I go to Pendel, when I go to church, when I go Planet Fitness, anywhere, I take a left off of Jeffrey Lane, I go up to the service road, I drive over to Unionville Avenue. That's the way I go. That service road is like part of our local road network. And I can almost guarantee almost everybody here who drives in that area from our street, that's the way they go. Removing that road is going to force both two-way traffic onto Fee and Avenue F, and it's really just going to basically cause more traffic on those residential roads. So that's basically our main concern. I don't think anyone has a problem with safety improvements on Route 1. That definitely needs it. That highway was designed, it was basically before a lot of modern standards were up. So we have no problem with that, but we're really concerned about those service roads.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. And I think my understanding is now that we're still, or at least at this point, everything's been very preliminary, and that we haven't even gotten to the point where they're doing final design of what this project is going to look like. So I think the answer is that there is clearly still time. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's correct. Our office, as well as the Township Traffic Engineer's office, I'm sure will be in much more discussions with PennDOT as they go through. There hasn't been anything as far as Middletown Township saying that we have no issue with anything they've proposed so far. So we'll definitely be talking with them more and sharing that with the public as they get into those phases following their environmental assessment.
Okay. Thank you. Yes.
Hello. My name is Brooke Butari. I'm a resident of 32 Deepdale Drive East. I'm also joined here by some of my fellow residents from Deepdale Drive East. We're here tonight to make public our section's desire to update our park in Deepdale East. I can guarantee probably most of you do not know that Deepdale East has a park. We are the grass basketball park that is rarely, if ever, used for basketball. It's essentially dedicated green space, and I can attest to this as the resident who lives directly across from it for the past 6 years, and I can count on one hand the amount of times it has been used for basketball, probably about 4 times in 6 years. So a few years ago, we voiced to Paul and the Parks and Rec Committee our section's community efforts that have become incredible and essentially the true heart of our community. That space has become the area where our section gathers for gatherings, craft nights, cook-offs, celebrations, all free to our community members and anyone else who likes to come and join. However, we are constantly bringing tables, chairs, pop-up tents, running power or water, essentially from my home across the street. So the space is not serving the residents at all. It is a consensus in our neighborhood that we need to update and improve this area with a small pavilion and power. With the other improvements happening to the other playgrounds and parks, and I must compliment the Lions Park upgrades, they're fantastic. I think it is time for you to respectfully consider the budgetary consideration to improve this space for the residents of Deepdale East and Middletown community. We have a great community of support within our section, including a community contractor who has volunteered supplies and his work if needed, as well as local Boy Scouts as well. So as you review the budget and plan for next fiscal year, the future fiscal years, we would ask you to please consider this for Deepdale East.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Is anything contemplated currently for Deepdale East? Is this something that's even Mr. Coper? I'm asking our Park and Rec director to comment.
So we are contemplating something. The grass basketball court is great. I took Eden on a tour. He was there August 30th. The neighborhood came out and everything else like that. The issue was with the money that we had, we were going to update and spend about $150,000 to do Lions Park, more of a public area. We don't have any objection to this. It was a budgetary concern, plus they are landlocked, so we were trying to look at other options to get them to the Lions Park versus getting them there. So we are looking at the whole thing, and, it's a great neighborhood vibe over there, so we want to do something for them. Sure.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Other public comment on non-agenda items? Anyone? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Board. Lance Segers, 98 Queen Lily Road. I'm not going to belabor the fire thing as far as the entering into the agreement to buy the apparatus. I think more of my concern is, and I think we voiced it last meeting, would have to do with exactly whether it was a bad loan or not. Because then that goes to, we have taxpayer money going to fire departments that have poor leadership. I can give you an example of good leadership because I think Chief Bartarella stewards our police department well, and he comes here and requests, if he needs a new vehicle or his officers come here and request if they need equipment that is vital to what their service is. I don't know if I've ever seen a fire chief come here and ask, and I hope that's the direction we're going if we're going to continue to have paid firefighters and fund our fire department, because I think that's what, frankly, the taxpayers would want, to know where this money's going. Instead of just being at a meeting like we discussed last month and we get tossed into hey, we're bailing out this loan, we're going to pay it off because it makes financial sense, which I agree with. It made financial sense. That's a lot of money, though. And we didn't even enter into that loan initially. So those are the things that I think are frustrating to myself and potentially other people that voiced their opinions. My second comment tonight would have to do with, notice the last couple meetings, Amy's not here. I'm not surprised she's not here. I guess my question would be is, how come there has been no comment that I can remember that the board has made as to why she's not here?
Yeah, it's actually, we're going to talk about that tonight. Ms. Strauss and her family have moved out of the township, so we have to, I guess, officially accept her resignation. Also, her husband is on the zoning hearing board, submitted his resignation. That's actually on the agenda tonight to accept his
So his is on the agenda, not hers. So that goes to my question, is she was sworn in March, okay? To the best that I have, their family house went for sale in June, all right? I don't know about anybody here, maybe it was a spur of the moment thing. I don't think I sell my house not knowing, I didn't just come up with this 2 weeks ago and then I put my house up for sale. I don't view that's how people sell houses. So we're swearing somebody in March, house goes up for sale in June, it's pending sale a week later, all the way till August. And we have somebody with no vested interest in the community voting on things that affect our community. When we have other candidates that could have been sworn in March, we have them sitting in the crowd. Ryan's running for supervisor next month. So I just thought that's not a good look for the board. That's me questioning the board's judgment in regards to that. And I'm just wondering why other candidates who are, able-bodied, have a vested interest in our community, weren't considered.
Well, first of all, I'll defend Ms. Strauss's record. I think she's been a phenomenal supervisor, both when she was elected and when she was appointed. And I thought she really represented the residents of this township well during her tenure here. I'm not going to speak for her regarding the decision of her family to move out of the township or why. That's none of my business. I will tell you that regarding your suggestion that we should have appointed a candidate, we made a decision, a bipartisan decision, not to appoint. There are 4 people running for Board of Supervisors right now. We made a bipartisan decision not to appoint any candidates because we didn't want to make it political. And so we unanimously appointed Ms. Strauss based on her having served in the position previously and also her close relationship to Ms. Payne, and we thought that's what Ms. Payne would have wanted. So we felt that was the right decision for the time. And again, I thought Ms. Strauss did an excellent job in that role. So I just disagree with your suggestion that we should have appointed a political candidate and made it a political thing. I just didn't want to do that, considering we were filling the vacancy of somebody who tragically passed away.
Okay. Were you aware she was planning on
And we
moving?
had no idea, and neither did she at the time when we appointed her. She had an opportunity that came up, and their family decided to move.
Yeah, I didn't want to talk about, but my understanding is she got a job opportunity that was unexpected, and they needed her to relocate.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Other public comment on non-agenda items? All right, we will move into the consent agenda items, and they are as follows. Item A, consideration of authorizing payment of the October 6, 2025 bills list in the amount of $2,964,916.89. B, consideration of approving the September 8th, 2025 meetings of the Middletown Township Board of Supervisors. C, consideration of a financial security release number 1 final for Popeyes Restaurant S/LD number 21-9 in the amount of $446,712.18. Item D, consideration of financial security release number 1 final for Chick-fil-A Restaurant S/LD number 23-8 in the amount of $1,143,230. E, consideration of change order number 1 for the stormwater pipelining project and the net amount of $58,401. F, consideration of authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with Langhorne Borough regarding the MS4 credits for a stormwater project to be completed by Langhorne Borough. G, consideration of awarding the 2025-26 Bucks County Consortium rock salt contract to Morton Salt of Chicago, Illinois. H, consideration of authorizing traffic signal easement agreements with Neshaminy School District and the County of Bucks for Core Creek Elementary School. And finally, I, consideration of authorizing resolution number 25-23R, authorizing sale of one 2015 Ford Explorer to the Neshaminy School District. Is there a motion on the consent agenda items?
I move to approve all consent agenda items as stated.
Thank you, Ms. Corporal. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Hannah. There's been a motion and a second. Any board questions? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. Next on the agenda, we have a conditional use hearing, CU number 25-2, for the Thatcher Square Townhome Community by WB Homes, the applicant, to construct a 34-unit townhouse development where 20% of the units will be attainable housing at the property. This is at 1492 Woodburn Road, Levittown, PA 19057, TMP number 22-055-016 in the P Professional Zoning District. Yes.
Good evening. I'm Ed Murphy. I'm here tonight on behalf of the applicant. The matter in front of the board is two parts. The first is the conditional use hearing, and the second, assuming we move forward through the conditional use, would be consideration of land development plans. This is a project that involves the redevelopment of the Knights of Columbus property on Woodburn Road in the P Professional Zoning District. Earlier this year, this board did approve an amendment to the P Professional Zoning District regulations to allow for an attainable housing component to a townhome project as a conditional use. Prior to the board's approval of that zoning ordinance amendment, representatives of WB Homes, the owner of the property, and Habitat for Humanity, the attainable housing partner of WB Homes, made multiple presentations to this board and to your planning commission and presented a sketch in support of the concept that would include the attainable housing component. Since the board's adoption of that zoning ordinance amendment in February, as you might expect, the land development plans have been engineered, prepared, submitted, and reviewed by the various boards and agencies and consultants in the township. Most recently, your planning commission did recommend approval of both the conditional use as well as the land development plans, which brings us here this evening. So I understand that the conditional use is a public hearing, so we will have the court stenographer present, and if there's no other preliminary matters, I have two witnesses that will likely comment on the aspect of principally the conditional use. Chris Canavan, who is the president of WB Homes, and Florence Kowatsko, who is the president and CEO of Habitat for Humanity in Bucks County. So I guess with that as background, Mr.
Murphy, I do have a couple preliminary things that I do want to get
stuff.
started with the hearing. First, since it is a public hearing, we do need to ask if anyone here would like party status. There are two ways for the audience to participate in the conditional use hearing. The most common way is to make comment during the public comment portion of the hearing. The other way is to request party status, in which you would become a party, could present your own evidence and cross-examine the witnesses presented by the applicant. The board would decide if you are a person affected by the application and whether to grant you party status or not. So I would ask if there's anyone in the hearing that would like party status to this. See, now that doesn't mean we will open it up for public hearing, so you will be able to comment on the project at that time. Before you call your witnesses, I am going to put in board exhibits. We are going to label as Exhibit B1 the application for conditional use submitted by Redford Acquisitions LP, the applicant. We'll label as Exhibit B2 the notice of hearing, proof of advertising in the advance of Bucks County, the proof of mailing to the neighboring properties, and the proof of posting from the township at the property. We'll label as Exhibit B3 the applicable provisions of the Township Zoning Ordinance, Section 500-3209C, which are the general requirements and standards applicable for all conditional uses in Middletown Township, and Section 500-1803J, which are the conditional use standards for townhouse use in the P Professional Zoning District. We're going to label as Exhibit B4 the Township Review Letters, remembering that these letters also are related to the land development project, Those letters are the August 28th, 2025 review letter from the Township Engineer, Remington and Burdick Engineers, the August 15th, 2025 review memo from the Township Fire Marshal, the August 29th, 2025 review letter from the Township Traffic Engineer, Pannoni and Associates Incorporated, the September 3rd, 2025 review memorandum from the Bucks County Planning Commission, and the August 29th, 2025 review letter from the Middletown Environmental Advisory Council. And we're going to label as Exhibit B5 the conditional use site plan rendering submitted by the applicant with the application. Do you have any objections to the exhibits?
No objection.
If not, I'll move them into the record. And then,
Thanks.
in case.
Perhaps we can have both Mr. Canavan and Ms. Kowalska at least sworn so that they'll both will be prepared to answer questions.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I swear.
I do.
So we'll start first with Mr. Canavan. You've heard my introduction about the history of the project starting in the fall of 2024 when we first introduced the concept to the township and then subsequently followed up with multiple meetings to develop the ordinance that allowed for the adoption this past February of the amendment to allow townhomes in the P professional district with the attainable housing option, correct?
Yes, I did.
First, identify yourself, your business occupation, your position with WB Homes, what the relationship is between WB Homes and the owner of this site, and your role there.
Very good, thank you. My name is Christopher Canavan. I am the president of WB Homes. We are a home building and land development company. WB Homes has been in business approximately 40 years. We are also the owners of this property, 1492 Woodburn Road. We are the fee simple owners now. We settled on the property in June, and it is in the name of one of our wholly owned subsidiaries of Redford Acquisitions LP, of which I am the president of the sole general partner of that limited partnership.
Before I ask you some specific questions about the project, explain the concept of having an attainable housing partner for a project like this. What was the idea behind it, and how has that generated a actual agreement, written agreement with Habitat for Humanity?
As we discussed this ordinance, it became very important that we figure out a way, if we were going to generate what would be attainable housing units, how would they stay attainable for future generations and not just benefit one select group of buyers. So the ordinance specifically requires that a developer utilizing this section of the ordinance to partner with a third-party entity, could be a nonprofit, county, the township, to make sure that we put in appropriate safeguards for the future viability of the attainable units. We have chosen to enter into an agreement with Habitat for Humanity. We have a signed memorandum of understanding for how we will transfer units to them and sell those units, so they will be at a rate that they can then meet the obligations of the attainable housing requirements for the adjusted median income for the potential buyers. Habitat then has a land trust model which will be able to protect those units so that after the first set of buyers buys the 7 units from this development, when they go up for sale again, they will be attainable to the next group of buyers, and that will be on Habitat through their restrictions to enforce in the future, not left to a developer.
You heard Mr. Esposito make reference to two different set of regulations in the current Middletown Township ordinance that relate to conditional uses, right?
Yes, I did.
One is the general conditional use criteria that we'll get to second, that apply to any conditional use application in any district in the township, right?
Correct.
However, the first set of criteria for conditional use relates specifically to the attainable housing option that's now available in the P professional district, right?
That is correct.
Okay, and the various review letters have acknowledged our compliance, but I'd like for you to simply check off each of those required criteria in order to qualify to apply for a conditional use for attainable housing option in the P professional district.
Be happy to. The primary items within the ordinance deal with design and restrictions on the development. And I'm going to run through these, and I'll be happy to answer any questions on them. I'm not sure who's controlling the screen. Can we go to the site plan, which should be sheet 4, I believe, of the plan deck? Go to sheet 3, I apologize. It looks prettier. Thank you. As we're looking at the plan set, there are a number of restrictions that go into the design. The first restriction would be the number of units per building, which is 6. The plan sheet obviously shows that there are no more than 6 units in a building. Number of parking spaces per unit is 2 spaces. We're in compliance with regards to that. Accessory structures, we meet both the requirements for unenclosed decks and porches no greater than 10 feet from a setback, and we are allowed to have box bay and bay windows project no more than 2 feet into a required yard. We've done that for architectural variation on side elevations. There is then a number of architectural requirements that are detailed under Section 13 of the ordinance regarding deflection of front and side elevations and also material changes. I will get to that in 1 minute, because I just want to stay on this slide to meet 2 other requirements. Number 14 requires all roads, alleys, stormwater facilities, et cetera, to be owned in perpetuity by a single ownership. This community will be a planned unit development. The unit owners will own the footprint of their building. The remainder of the community will be owned by the community association. Homeowners association declaration will be provided to the township solicitor for review, and they will be responsible for the maintenance of all all common facilities, none of which will be dedicated. The private roads meet the minimum widths of 24 feet with no parking and 28 feet with parking on one side. There is sidewalk on one side of the road. All units that face an existing roadway, so this would be the set of 6 units that face Woodburn Road, the front elevation needs to be facing Woodburn Road. So when you're driving on Woodburn Road, you're not looking at the rear of a unit. If you don't mind, go to the final slide. So this would be the elevation of the units from towards Woodburn Road with no garages facing that way. They'll have a front door at the ground level and general architectural features. Their driveways will be to the rear of the unit. The next groups of units would be the other elevation that was being shown, which would show garages in the front with their front doors. It balances out the way the site lays out, but we are in compliance with that section of the ordinance as well. And then finally, under that section, there is a requirement for a community association, which I previously mentioned. Then the last piece is the attainable housing option is a requirement for 20% of the units within the development to be attainable. So with 34 units, rounding up, that would be 7 units that would be attainable. I think when we discussed the ordinance, it was at 6. We are at 7 now for the attainable units, and that is what's reflected in the memorandum of understanding with Habitat.
The paragraph 15 also identifies other more typical area and design requirements as well in order to qualify for the attainable housing option, correct?
Yeah, and we do, we meet the minimum gross tract area of 3.5 acres. We have 3.8 acres, maximum density of 9.25 dwelling units per gross acre. We're at 8.75 dwelling units per acre. And then the remainder are bulk area dimensional requirements with regards to height, separation, impervious coverage, building coverage, and minimum open space, which we meet all of them.
Let's talk about the more general conditional use criteria that apply to any conditional use application. And I'd ask you, if you would, to comment on those, and then we'll have Ms. Kowalska come forward and we can talk about the relationship and partnership Habitat has with WB.
The general requirements are, is it in compliance with your comprehensive plan? It is. It's particularly related to your redevelopment and housing section. We spoke at great length about that during the text amendment requirement. This area was specifically noted for redevelopment. This property would also improve a blighted property that has fallen into significant disrepair in the community, and the proposed community will remove the blight on the property and reinvigorate this part of the neighborhood with new residents and newly constructed housing stock. The property that is subject to this application is adjacent to multifamily residential next to the right of it if you're facing it from Woodburn Road, and across the street on Woodburn Road, and then single-family housing to the rear. It makes an appropriate transition of zoning uses from the existing professional uses adjacent to it as well. The property is currently served and will be served by both public water and public sewer. The property also has the benefit of there's currently 2 driveways accessing Woodburn Road from the site. We will be consolidating that to 1 driveway to help with safe traffic flow. The final piece is there is no transportation impact study required because we did not trigger the requirement of the ordinance. 34 units, we only have 34 residential units. The ordinance requires 50 units or more to trigger the transportation impact study. And as I think everybody is aware, this site had previously been used as a banquet hall and restaurant, which would generate more traffic than our current proposed residential use.
Lawrence? Much as Mr. Canavan did, identify yourself and your position with Habitat for Humanity.
Florence Kowalska, CEO of Habitat for Humanity, Bucks County.
And you've been present with us throughout, from the start of the project, as part of the proposal to achieve the attainable housing goal that the township has established, correct?
That's correct.
Even though most people know of you and your mission, why don't you briefly describe for those that may be unfamiliar what Habitat's mission is and how they've come to partner with WB Homes?
Habitat's mission is to make affordable housing and attainable housing possible for folks. In very simplistic terms, all of our homeowners can afford to pay a mortgage. It's not a giveaway program by any means, but they just cannot afford enough of a mortgage to buy a home in very expensive Bucks County. So this is a wonderful opportunity for us to help not only people that are at 80% or less of the AMI, but actually we're going to serve a few more households that are above 80%. No other organization helps someone like that.
What's AMI?
Average median income. And
how many projects, active projects, does Habitat have now in Bucks County?
Right now we have active 4.
And total, the number of projects you oversee and manage?
We have built 134.
Okay. Explain your relationship with WB Homes.
So we were approached with this opportunity, the fact that we'll be able to buy homes at cost. WB Homes is not getting a profit on what they're selling to us, and we'll be able to sell the homes at a reasonable cost. We'll have to fundraise for the balance between the cost of the homes and what the families can afford.
Would a person driving by the community or driving in the community be able to tell which units are Habitat units and which units are not?
Absolutely not.
Explain why.
WB Homes happens to have 3 models that they're going to be offering in this development. We have chosen the lower cost model, the lowest cost model. So it just blends in. No one will know from the front. The Habitat units will be interspersed in the buildings. It's
So
one
there's
or
not
two.
going to be a, quote, Habitat section.
Right.
The exterior finishes will be identical. It's the interior finishes that may be less expensive than certain other market rate units, right?
That's correct.
Explain to the board and the audience how you and WB Homes ensure that a unit or the 7 units that would be sold to Habitat purchasers will always remain available to other qualified Habitat purchasers.
Starting in November of 2022, Habitat Habitat established a land trust model, which means that we retain ownership of the land of every home we sell. That keeps with the land lease model, and when the family goes to sell, they have restriction on the sale that they have to sell to another income qualified buyer.
And what's the typical profile of your typical buyer?
It's we serve people that are physician's assistants, firefighters, teachers.
Typically first-time home buyers?
Yes, first-time home buyers.
Okay. And what's the program that you would offer to a first-time home buyer that would qualify for a Habitat occupancy?
Explain program, I'm sorry.
How big a discount
Okay.
from the market rate units would a Habitat house cost?
Okay, so our homeowners can afford a mortgage, an 80% of the average median income can afford a mortgage of around $180,000. And so that's the mortgage that they can afford, and we will subsidize the difference between that and the cost of the home from WB. WB is selling us the homes at around $365,000, and the market value of these homes will be over $500,000. The deeds will show the value of the home at over $500,000, whatever the market value is.
And who profits from a future resale at a value greater than what the value is when the first Habitat buyer bought it?
The first Habitat buyer gets back their equity, and they get a share of the appreciation up to a predetermined, we have a formula that we apply. So there's no way that our homeowners are going to get anything close to $515,000. They're not going to get anything close to even $300,000.
Okay. I'd offer both Ms. Kowalska and Mr. Canavan for any questions that the board members or audience may have on the conditional use aspect of it.
Any board members have questions for either of the witnesses on the conditional use aspect? Mr. Esposito, I don't see any questions.
Mr. Esposito, before you do that, can you clarify what the difference between the conditional use and the land development and what questions go into each?
So right now, under the conditional use, what they're asking for approval right now is whether you would give them conditional use to permit the townhomes to be a use at this property. Right now, they can't build townhomes unless they get this conditional use. It is a permitted use based off of they meet all of these conditions. Once they get the conditional use approval, if approved by the board, then they have to go through the land development aspect and go through the subdivision land development ordinance, prove that they've done all that. Our traffic engineer and our township engineer have reviewed all of the plans for that and go through all of that aspect. So this doesn't go through the saldo, the conditional use, it goes through the specific conditions listed in the zoning ordinance and whether they met those or not.
And we've reviewed and they meet all of those conditions?
Yes. I will ask the engineer if he believes that they've met the
we believe that
dimensional
as it
aspects of it.
pertains to the identified criteria which you established in your ordinance to permit an applicant to qualify for an attainable housing option, that we have met all that, both the objective criteria that we reviewed and the subjective criteria. Yes, and that's what we're asking you to approve. If you do, then we're going to talk next about the stuff that we're all more familiar with, and that is the nuts and bolts of the land development plan, the engineer's review and things like that.
All right, any questions for the witnesses? Okay.
Do you have any more evidence to present on this?
I have no other evidence or testimony to present.
If there's no more evidence, we're going to close the record and we'll open it up for public comment.
We'll move the exhibits in the slide that we presented.
Yep, they're accepted, no objection to the exhibits. But if the board doesn't have any more questions, we'll close the evidence and then we can open it up to public comment for the audience.
Okay, so we're closed?
We're closed and then we'll open it up for public comment.
Any public comment on the conditional use aspect?
Out of the 34 townhomes, how many of these townhomes are going to be sold to only Middletown residents?
We do not have the ability to restrict who we sell homes to.
Okay. How many of the Habitat for Humanity 7 homes are going to be reserved for Middletown Township residents?
I'll let it float.
None is planned.
Did you hear that?
So none is planned, she said. So my question is we're looking at another high-density housing proposal, okay? When, what is it, WB building can certainly build other residences on this property and make a wage, or, you know, they'll probably make less money, but they can certainly make money off of this property. The board represents Middletown Township and the residents of Middletown Township. I'm failing to see where the benefit of this project is for Middletown Township. We can't even get Habitat for Humanity to guarantee Middletown residents at these attainable housing. This is something that I've heard the board talk about being such a huge issue. We need attainable housing. Man, it's so great, these buzzwords, right? And then we can't even get our own residents in these houses that we're approving that are not only going to clog our roadways, even though we're not doing a traffic study. I understand he said it was a banquet hall and other things. There hasn't been traffic around Knights of Columbus, even when it was open. I've lived down the street from it for 15 years. There hasn't been traffic there. So when we're adding 34 more residents, God knows how many more kids to our school district, which I keep bringing up this study that we just did, that our schools are going to be overcrowded, particularly our high school, within the next 4 or 5 years. Now we're adding more. We haven't even seen the townhomes that you guys approved at the old Oliver Heckman yet. So that's not even built. So we don't even know what the traffic looks like once those townhomes are in place. And they're coming with a plan that doesn't necessarily benefit Middletown Township at all. It benefits him and his pocket. I'm failing to see how it's benefiting the citizens of Middletown Township, because it doesn't. I understand we need housing, but part of our comprehensive plan as well talks about open space. Where was the open space in that project? Because I heard him mention that comprehensive plan, but he didn't mention open space. I think that's something valuable to our township, and I hope it's valuable to people sitting on the board. Thank you.
So I think, just to be clear, we're talking about the conditional use, which is a question of whether or not they meet the conditions in order to move forward with the proposed use. So I think a lot of your comments probably are more appropriate for the land development phase. Doesn't mean, that's fine, you're welcome to say them, and they're noted, they're on the record. So we can talk about them. I mean, I guess, and obviously my colleagues are free to speak. I will say that I see this as, number one, this has become a blighted property. This is an opportunity to make this a useful property. I think the goal of attainable housing has been an aspiration of this board, or at least most of the members of this board, for a long time, and the opportunity to provide that, I think, is worthy and valuable to the residents and to the community. I think that the representation that the traffic impact from a banquet hall compared to this residential development actually would be potentially less traffic. And so I think there's, you asked what is the benefit to Middletown Township. I think there's a great deal of benefit to Middletown Township. I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think legally we can restrict sale of the residence to only residents of Middletown Township.
I've never seen that done, and I'd have to do some research whether that would be a permitted kind of restriction. That would be unusual.
Yeah.
If I could add, though.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. One thing, though, is the 7 Habitat homes will be sold to, we're allowed to sell to only people that have either live or work already in the county. So we're not bringing in, you have to have proof that you live or work in the county.
And I understand what she's saying, but if it's being built in Middletown Township, it should benefit Middletown Township citizens. If somebody works here and they want to move here, great. I mean, I would even be flexible with that. But to open it up to the whole county, to me, when it only affects citizens of Middletown, the effects of this, whether it's our schools, our traffic, and I understand you guys can't force them, but she can certainly say, hey, that's what we're going to do if you guys approve it. So you guys don't have to make it a...
I don't believe she can. She can't do that.
She can't? She works for Habitat for Humanity? She can't say those are the residents I'm going to...
That's against the law. You can't decide that you're only going to sell, to sell to particular people based on where they live. I don't think that's legal.
Okay. So then it's not a good idea.
I'll just make one other point. You've talked many times about open space, and I agree with you. I mean, that is a very fair and worthy concern about not only our township, but Bucks County, the whole region. The issue, though, that we repeatedly run into is this is not a decision between whether or not this is going to be preserved or open space or whether or not it's going to be developed. We as a municipality do not have the ability to buy and preserve every piece of property and designate it as open space. And we don't own the property. It's privately owned. And so the only thing we have control over is what gets developed on that property. So we have to make decisions about what we approve within the confines of our ordinance. But we can't just say, no, you know what, I understand that's your property and you own it, and I understand that you want to do something with that property, but we're telling you you can't, and you've got to just keep it open. I mean, that we cannot do. Life would be a lot easier if we could, and then we could decide which parcels we just want to keep open and vacant throughout the township, and that's just not, unfortunately, something we have the power to do. So I agree with the aspiration of preserving open space to the extent we can, but short of the township actually buying the property ourselves and owning it, which is just not feasible, that's not the choice that we're left with. That's not the choice that we're facing with a lot of these development projects.
So I'm going to go back to when this was changed from a professional zoning to the zoning it is now. You did have the choice to not change that zoning district. Correct?
Absolutely.
And you made the choice to change it.
And I think that, and I absolutely believe that was the right decision,
So
because
if it wasn't changed, we wouldn't be talking about this right now.
it's not true. We might be talking about a different development and a different use, but we felt like attainable housing in this location was a better use for our residents. You asked how is this going to benefit Middletown. My feeling, and of the board, whoever else voted for that, was that this was a better use of that property than as it was currently zoned, which was a blighted professional zone property.
And I don't know if your
Zoning's not changed, it's still professional.
and I don't know if your residents agree with you.
I mean,
Thank you.
you can certainly disagree with me. You absolutely have the right to your opinion.
Just so we're clear, the professional zoning designation remains. This is an option that the board created. So the underlying zoning remains unchanged.
Any other public comment?
I don't know if you can change that back to the diagram.
Hold on, can you just talk into the microphone, because
Oh.
they can't hear you at home if you're not talking to the microphone.
Oh, could you
you.
switch it back to the diagram of the proposed site? Can I go to it and point?
Of course.
Okay. So I'm in R2 zone, which backs up, like my property is exactly backing up to this whole project. Currently, there's a oversaturation when it rains a lot. Like right now, we're good, but when it rains, like we have a lot of rainfall in a year, my sump pump can go 10, 12 hours a day.
So I think we're going to talk about stormwater when we get to the land development part, which is the next phase. I mean, you can certainly address it now, if you don't mind.
So we can answer a question on the record as well.
Yeah.
The current property, with all of the impervious that is on it between the building and the driveway, there is no modern stormwater management detaining any of that stormwater runoff from those parking lots, and it runs to the rear of the site towards your property where there is a wooded area and there's a small wetlands that formed in that area and then discharges off that site. As will be presented when we go to the land development aspect of this, if we are successful in getting the conditional use, we have a series of underground stormwater detention basins and stormwater management throughout the property that will control the rate and volume of discharge of stormwater off of this property. So I believe that post-construction, what you see will be less saturation, less water runoff during peak times from the property, so it should possibly assist your situation. And as you'll note, the last building on the property does not go all the way back to the rear of the property. There is that wooded area to the rear of the property, and this ordinance required at least a minimum of 30% open space around the site. That area is preserved as part of this for two reasons: to stay as open space and to retain the wooded features, which would also protect the wetlands and provide an additional area for the stormwater to be treated before it might run off the property.
Can I continue? A silly question. Is there going to be fencing, privacy, anything to block off that area? Because if not, I mean, you can literally walk in right to my backyard.
And currently, people on that property could walk into your backyard. I mean, we are going to put in appropriate buffering around the property. There may be some fencing between adjacent uses. We haven't fully decided where. Probably not in the heavily wooded area would we run a fence back in that area.
No, not the wooded area. I mean, closer to the property.
That was not a plan. That was not something we had planned on doing at this time. We think
I know
the
you
separation is great enough that you don't have people looking to wander onto the adjacent property.
Right now, there's no one, and you're proposing hundreds. So, I mean, I'm just wondering some sort of fencing or something, because there's no people there now, but there's going to be a bunch of people.
I appreciate the comment. We weren't intending on fencing around the whole entire property when it comes down to it. Obviously, there's an adjacent apartment complex to the property as well.
Okay. Is there any I don't know, like evaluations on the degree of how the degree of the actual property going, like how?
The grading of the property from the rear, it's a generally flat site.
Okay.
The stormwater does generally run from Woodburn Road to the rear of the site, and that's how we've managed it with the stormwater management facilities as well.
So you're going to propose that drainage? Like, is there going to be?
There is a series of underground basins that will be underneath both the driveway and to the rear of that last set of units to detain the stormwater that would run off through a series of inlets and pipes on the property. So that it won't be a direct discharge off there. It will handle that volume of water significantly better than anything that's currently being handled on that property. And that's heavily regulated with both the Township Engineer's Office reviewing it and the Bucks County Conservation District, where we are required to get an MPDES permit, which is a stormwater permit for discharge from the site.
Yeah, I don't know if our township engineer, just because the township engineer reviews all of this, and can you just comment on the stormwater improvements and how that might impact her property in a positive way?
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a really good question because you see the existing site, has that large parking lot, and like the applicant had mentioned, the proposed work that they have shown here, I'm sure when they talk about the land development item, they'll go further into what they're actually designed to improve that. So it has a system that manages it mostly underground, and will have more of a controlled rate that it would come off and towards the back area of the property. So as compared to now, it just flows towards that area. This would actually be a managed design system that would control that in an improved way. So that is more of on the land development side, but they have provided that as part of the plans and the calculations and the reports that they give the township. A stormwater management report is one of those things, and it's also reviewed, as mentioned, by the Conservation District, which is partnered with the PADEP, that they need a permit approved to actually have that system operational.
Okay. I just wanted to let the township know that that was an issue, and I just didn't want all the units to make it a worse issue.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, we have that in our letter that we noticed as well. I know it was brought up at the Planning Commission as a concern, and that is something that, as part of their proposed work, they have looking to address.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
If there's no other comment, the board can consider, it's right for the board's consideration.
Okay. All right, I will move to grant conditional use approval for the Thatcher Square Townhome Community at 1492 Woodburn Road, S/LD number 25-08, with the following conditions. The applicant shall comply in full with all requirements of the Middletown Township Subdivision and Land Development Ordinance and the Middletown Township Zoning Ordinance, unless relief is granted by the body having jurisdiction. 2, any remaining review comments shall be addressed in full. And 3, the applicant shall provide a fee, as determined by the township engineer, in lieu of providing the required number of street trees. Is there a second?
That part actually should be in the land development approval for the street trees.
Oh, all right. So just with the first 2 conditions. Motion amended. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Ms. Corporal. It's been a motion and a second. Any board questions at this time? Questions from the public? Everyone in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, so that carries 4-0, and that, by the way, I just realized that maybe perhaps throughout this meeting I've been saying 5-0 instead of 4-0, so just correct that for the record, that all motions so far have been approved 4-0 by the board. All right, apologies for that. Force of habit. So that brings us to agenda item number 9, which is consideration of preliminary and final subdivision and land development plan approval for the Thatcher Square Townhome Community by WB Homes at 1492 Woodburn Road, Levittown, PA 19057, TMP number 22-055-196 in the P Professional Zoning District. This is the former Knights of Columbus property. Mr. Murphy.
Right, and we've already presaged most of that conversation, but concurrently, after the board adopted the zoning amendment in February, it was the applicant's choice to proceed either separately or concurrently with the conditional use application and the engineering of the land development plans, and that's what the applicant did. We processed and submitted the formal conditional use application, which you just acted upon, together with the detailed, fully engineered land development plans. Those land development plans have been reviewed, just like the conditional use was, by the various boards and commissions, both within the township and also the other outside agencies like the Bucks County Planning Commission, Conservation District, et cetera, that you heard about. So what's in front of you now is the land development plans that you've seen and which have been the subject of those reviews. At the most recent Planning Commission meeting, Planning Commission did recommend approval of those land development plans subject to our ongoing compliance with the various engineering comments that were outlined in that Planning Commission motion that I think the board probably has access to, and the grant of a handful of waivers that were submitted as required by law, each of which were reviewed by the Planning Commission and voted upon as well that night. So happy to go into any other details that you would like, but we have met multiple times with your staff, consultants, et cetera, before appearing here tonight to make certain that the plans were, in our view and their view, ready for action by the board tonight. So,
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. So do any board members have any questions for Mr. Murphy or for the applicant?
I actually have a couple of questions. One of the things too, so I've only recently, thank you, Township Manager Eden, realized that it's not normal for us to do preliminary, for townships and municipalities to do preliminary and final in the same meeting. So one of the things that I hope going forward that we can do is kind of remove this voting on something at the same time, because I think doing them separately, similar to what we did with Shady Brook, gives the ability for the residents to kind of understand what's happening. For the fee in lieu of, so this is the third situation that we've had for woodland situations where a developer does not place the trees or the plantings and is doing a fee in lieu of. So like one, like particularly here, like why are we not able to meet the plantings? I mean, it seems like this ordinance was developed with this project in mind, and we need waivers on top of that, which is confusing.
I'll address both. First, it's the difference between preliminary and final engineering used to be significant. And many times, years ago, applicants felt uncomfortable having their engineers complete the engineering to a final plan stage without having the comfort and security of knowing they had a preliminary approval already in place. Over the years, that has changed. I don't recall, and what you said about Shady Brook's right, but from an engineering standpoint, we do not engineer a plan only to meet the preliminary plan criteria in the ordinance. Every plan we engineer now is done to a final plan level of detail. So you're right, you can choose not to grant preliminary as final, but to suggest that that's uncommon, it's not. Years ago it was, but now with the level of engineering detail provided, we meet the level of engineering detail required to qualify for a final plan approval. And I think Isaac would confirm that. But it's your choice not to grant it. I hear you, but there's no technical reason not to entertain it. As to the trees, it's not technically a waiver because we are willing and have committed to meet the ordinance requirement for tree replacement if we can physically accommodate the number of trees you require on the site. What we said at the Planning Commission was that Isaac and the staff can determine if we have, he can say, if we made full effort to plant as many of the required trees on the site, we will certainly do it. And to the extent that he says, or the staff says, you can't plant any more trees for fear of them not surviving, we agreed we would plant them elsewhere or provide a fee in lieu. So to say that it's a waiver technically is not true, because it's more a deferral subject to whatever direction we get from the township staff, their choice, not ours.
Ed, if I could just add to that, I believe these are for street trees. Street trees in your ordinance have very specific criteria with where they get placed along a roadway. And when you get into a development where you have spacing of units, roadways, and then underground utilities, often it's not possible to practically fit them where the ordinance is saying. I have no problem committing that we will make every effort to plant the trees on the site. I think it was only 2 street trees that we were talking about that were not able to fit per the thing. So we'll just find another location on there to the approval of the engineer's office. It's to our betterment to have more trees on the site, not fewer.
Okay. One of I was just going to follow up the question around like the selection process for who gets the attainable housing. I know I had asked, this is similar to what the resident had asked, but not quite as strong. But I know the last meeting we were at, we thought maybe we could go back to that selection process and include something that, gives, additional favor to members that have history within the township. And you were kind of going to go back and kind of look to see if that was the case. Did you happen to look at that, see if anything had happened?
Yeah, as was mentioned, it would be illegal for us to
Okay.
do that.
Okay.
But of course, we will do our best to advertise strongly in the Middletown Township area to make sure that everyone in the township is aware, and we'll have a day of interest, perhaps maybe even here, in terms of making sure that people are able to come and understand what the program's about and how it would work.
That'd be really great. And then I had one more question around that housing, but I'll get back to it. The back buffering, that was one of the questions that I had. Is any of that back buffering being taken away with this new development, or is it remaining, the amount of trees that are there are staying?
We are retaining that buffer, and there's an underground stormwater basin between that unit and that wooded area that will discharge to a level spreader just before the woods.
Okay, great. And then my last question is around the HOA.
Yes.
I know in previous kind of 1700 Woodburn, we had some specific criteria for the HOA. Is there anything that's going to exist here, like no sheds, no porches, those types of things?
So, as I mentioned earlier, the development is a planned unit development. So they're only buying the footprint of their building, and then we give them what's known as an exclusive use area around their building. So there's some landscaping, and they have the ability to put a deck off the back. There are no accessory structures allowed within the community. We have restrictions with regards to trash cans need to be put in there. You can put them out during trash day, they need to go back in the garage afterwards. There's a number of restrictions. Above ground pools are not allowed, things of that nature, because they have no yard technically. That is all common ground to the benefit of the community, and they just have very limited exclusive use to just an area just off the rear and fronts of their units.
And does the HOA handle trash?
The HOA will, yeah. We will have a single hauler that gets contracted for the development. Same with snow removal from the sidewalks and the roadways. The only snow removal for the residents would be their individual driveways.
Ms. Kane, I do want to jump in there. With the 1700 Woodburn, the no additional accessory structures, that was a specific condition of the board. It currently is not. Now, Mr. Canavan did state that they will not, and I can ensure that they'll be in the HOA documents. I would ask if he wants to, if you board is going to approve this, we can make that a condition of the approval, if that's what you'd like. Yeah.
Other board questions for the applicant or Mr. Murphy? All right, any questions or comments from the public on the land development aspect? All right, seeing none, I can accept a motion.
Conditional use approval for the Thatcher Square Townhome Community at 1492 Woodburn Road.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. You're reading the conditional use motion.
Oh my God, I'm sorry.
It's the next one.
I'm having like massive trouble with this. Sorry. I make a motion to grant, yeah, see, that's just coming up wrong for
It's right
me.
below it.
A land development plan approval for the Thatcher Square Townhome Community at 1492 Woodburn Road, SLD number 25-08, with the following conditions. Applicant shall comply in full with all requirements in Middletown Township subdivision and land development ordinance and the Middletown Township zoning ordinance unless relief was granted by the body having jurisdiction. 2, any remaining review comments shall be addressed in full. And 3, applicant shall provide a fee as determined by the township engineer in lieu of providing the required number of street trees if necessary. Can we add?
Yeah, subject to the specific conditions of no accessory structures and other aspects that the applicant has agreed to during this meeting.
Do I need to
Agreed.
say that?
Nope, so
Agreed.
we'll just add it to the
Thank
motion.
you.
Yep.
All right, thank you, Ms. Corporal. Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any board questions? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 4-0. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Murphy. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, next on the agenda is consideration of authorizing advertisement of bid specifications for the Maple Avenue North Flowers Mill Road Signal Improvement Project. Mr. Valla.
Yes, good evening, Supervisors. A project that we have talked about some time ago during last year's budget process is a signal improvement project right outside of our municipal building here. This is for a total of 6 intersections, all the way from, if you kind of follow the road, the intersection of Langhorne Yardley Road, where it turns into Winchester Avenue, and North Flowers Mill, at the very top of North Flowers Mill, all the way heading down towards Route 1, so past the municipal center, past the shopping center, making a left if you're heading towards the post office, so bending at the Maple Avenue, North Flowers Mill intersection, and then the signal in front of the Dunkin' Donuts and the southbound interchange, with the final intersection being on Wheeler Way as you go towards the post office. The township received a grant just shy of $139,000 from PennDOT's Greenlight Go program to modernize those signals. Those signals all contain original equipment. The township expressed interest some time ago to do an adaptive system in this corridor, and PennDOT came back and said that they wanted to see some kind of incremental improvements, as they believe that those would resolve some congestion issues in that area. And PennDOT did appoint through the grant program an engineer to design the improvements, and our township traffic engineer has since vetted those improvements and taken them through the PennDOT permitting process, and it is now ready for implementation. I do want to highlight that the only visible change that residents will see, other than reduced traffic, of course, is the left arrow heading out of the Flowers Mill Shopping Center. So you're making a left from North Flowers Mill onto Maple Avenue. So again, heading towards the direction of the post office. That will not anymore be the 5 light, kind of the clustered left turn arrow. It will be the new modern, it'll be 4 lights in a row with the blinking left. That is the new PennDOT standard for a safe yielding left turn. So that'll be a new visual improvement. Otherwise, the only thing you'll really see is just the improved flow of traffic in that area. It's all technology that's getting improved. So this is being brought to the board for authorizing advertisement of bids. It will come back to the board for awarding those bids at a later time.
Thank you, Mr. Valla. Any questions from the board for Mr. Valla about this project?
Yeah, I think this is the roadway that we received funding, $1 million from a developer to put adaptive signals in. So it sounds like we weren't able to put the adaptive in, but with this updated technology, we will be able to put the adaptive in once it's in place. Is that the case? Like, what is the timeline that we could potentially see? Because I know this corridor is bad, and it's part of the reason why we needed the funding, because there's going to be significantly more traffic in this corridor once those warehouses have traffic flowing in and out of them.
Sure, that's a great question. So that was a question that came up during the land development process for the 2 warehouses at the Reben Toll property, for folks who are familiar. And the township had originally approached PennDOT at that time through the HOP process for those warehouses and the land development process, I should add, inquiring about the township's interest in wanting to do the adaptive system. And PennDOT's feedback at that time was the technology there is so outdated that we can't even really modernize or monitor the flow of traffic currently. And in order to do that, they wanted us to make some incremental improvements, which is the improvements we're talking about here. And if those improvements are not showing the changes to the extent that PennDOT would like to see, they would then entertain allowing the township to move forward with an adaptive system at that time.
All right, that's great. One of the other questions that I had with respect to the bidding process, so how does the township make sure that the contractors that we use are like qualified under the RCO? I've heard that there's been some scenarios lately where like there's been contractors that have come back to us and asked about it. How do we rectify those situations that occur?
Sure. So I should add for this specific project, with some verification from the township solicitor, I don't believe would qualify for the RCO given the specific nature, because the RCO is defined for public works, kind of more of a typical construction project. But I can certainly let him speak to that if you would like to. And then would you like to also speak to the vetting? Sure.
Okay.
Do you want to speak to the vetting question for other bidded projects?
So for other bidding projects that we do have to require under the RCO, so we ask, we have a questionnaire in our bids that go out that list all the criteria that is listed in the responsible contractor ordinance. In addition to that, we ask for letters. The specific thing that's always usually an issue is the apprenticeship programs. We ask for letters from the specific apprenticeship programs that they have participated in. They need to be updated letters, and then we usually vet those specifically, either the township engineer or myself, to make sure that they specifically meet the requirements. There are times that we go back and forth, ask for additional information just to make sure we have everything that we need.
Thank you, Mr. Esposito. Any other questions for Mr. Valla? If not, I can accept a motion.
I move to authorize advertisement of a bid specifications for the Maple Avenue North Flowers Mill Road Signal Improvement Project.
Thank you, Ms. Hanna. Is there a second?
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Any board questions? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 4-0. What's that? Yeah, spring 2026. All right, next on the agenda is consideration of accepting the resignation of Kevin Strauss from the zoning hearing board. What? Oh, sorry, I skipped. Sorry, Chad.
It's all right.
I didn't recognize you with a suit on. I was all confused.
Don't take it personally. Yeah.
All right, consideration of authorizing the purchase of a microphone system for the public hall. Mr. McGee.
Good evening. So the microphones that are in front of you are approximately 10 years old. They are actually no longer being supported. So, and also, we don't have enough microphones. As you can see, Assistant Township Manager Nick Valla doesn't have one. Our planning commission, we're completely short. So, in doing research, which I hear myself echoing in this room, I worked with 3 different vendors, as I mentioned before, and we're trying to find the best solution without changing the appearance of this room. So these microphones have built-in speakers. So when you're speaking, you won't hear yourself, but everybody else that has a microphone will at the dais. Our 3 speakers up here, currently the sound is just going straight like this, and it's just bouncing off the walls. It makes everything very echoey and very hard to hear. So we're also going to reprogram those that the sound just goes right here in the front before the dais for any performances that go on. So we will significantly improve the sound quality. I'm not going to say I can guarantee you that this will solve all of our problems, but this will definitely. We don't do performances here or anything like that for us to put up sound barriers. So by controlling where the sound is going, I believe we can solve our issue with the echo, and have clearer quality so you can understand everybody well. So, as I said, I worked with all three vendors. I do recommend that we work with Lero. They're a CoStar vendor. Ever since I've been here, since 2019, we've been dealing with them. What I found out during my research, that all the audio programming was done by a different vendor before my time. And when you mix different vendors doing different things, you're going to have issues, because the vendor who actually did the system really knows the system and knows what they programmed. And we just experienced the situation with the old township manager, the last meeting, where everything went haywire. And it's all because there was no programming done for the speakers in the hallway or the speakers up in 220. And these are things that I don't want us to ever come across again. So I recommend moving forward with Lero. We did budget $30,000 for audiovisual upgrades. The total cost is $32,866.44. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions?
I saw that you used 3 vendors. They all
Yes.
said the same item. And the way we kind of chose them is going with the same vendor that kind of we've worked with previously. So that way they know the system, they understand it, they've used it before.
Yes,
And was the price really that different between all 3 of them?
So at all 3 vendors, one recommended doing drapes and then microphones next year. Now keep in mind, the microphones we have here are still fairly decent. I'll try to find another use for them for us, even though it's no longer supported by the manufacturer. But, and that alone was going to eat up our $30,000 budget pretty much. The other 2 vendors did, one recommended new speakers up here, one new speaker and new microphone system. And Lero was actually the one that recommended those same microphones. They all recommend the same microphone, but they said, well, we can program these speakers so the sound's not going all over the place. After talking with all 3 vendors, I feel more comfortable with Lero and what they recommend.
What kind of technical support do they offer if they're going to program the microphones? How will we know how to continue with that type of programming, or if something happens and we need to adjust it?
So Lero is a great contractor for us. We've had to have issues while your meeting is going on, and we just call them up on the phone. They just tie right into our system and help us solve the problems. With the other vendors, they're like, oh yeah, we have a 24-hour help desk. You just call, and then if it's after hours, somebody will call you back. That's not the support I'm looking for. I like the support that we currently have with Lero, that they're always right there on a dime. And David, who does the switchboard in there, he works very closely with them as well. So it's a good team.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, I'm going to move to authorize the purchase of the Telvic microphone system from Lero in the amount of $32,866.44. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any board questions? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Carries 4-0. Thank you, Mr. McGee.
Thank you.
So the next item on the agenda is consideration of accepting the resignation of Kevin Strauss from the Zoning Hearing Board. As I mentioned earlier this evening, Mr. Strauss has moved out of the township, and he did submit his letter of resignation. So I will make a motion to accept the resignation of Kevin Strauss from the Zoning Hearing Board. Is there a second? There's been a motion and a second. Any board questions? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Carries 4-0. We are seeking applications to fill Mr. Strauss's seat on the Zoning Hearing Board. So if any folks out there are interested in serving their community on the Zoning Hearing Board, please submit your application on the township website. All right, so those are really the 12 formal agenda items that we had on the agenda tonight. The plan was to take a brief recess at this point and then have an overview of the 2026 budget workshop. I think, though, the expectation was that this would be a relatively short meeting. It's 9:15. Phillies are in the bottom of the ninth. I think what we're going to do here is just adjourn the meeting tonight. The budget workshop begins next Monday night. We'll have more than enough opportunity to go through the whole budget process. There's a lot of information available on the township website, and certainly any of us, township staff, manager, assistant manager, are all available to answer any resident questions about the budget workshop process as we move into the budget process. So at this point, I'm going to just skip that item and move right into other business. So I'll start with Mr. Valla.
I actually would really like to get into if we could do the budget and get through with it. My only problem is the next two budget workshops are not live and they're not recorded. And this is the only chance that the residents will be able to actually go back and look and hear about what we're doing for this year's budget.
Two comments. So to the township staff, we're ready, happy to do it. Also recognize Mr. Kizak's comments, the hour of the night. But to that last point, Ms. Kane, the budget workshops are live and they are recorded. And we're doing them here for that reason. Yeah.
That's great. Okay. Thank you.
We did change that, but listen, if you want to have the presentation, we can do it. It's township staff have been here late. It's 9:15. We only have.
When people are prepared, especially, I know myself, when I'm prepared to do a presentation and it gets pushed off, it's kind of hard, especially when you prepare. But I'll defer to the township staff.
I think we're good either way. We're not going to be offended. I recognize the hour of the night. It's 9 o'clock at night. I'm not sure that there's robust public here. Again, I don't mean to buck the question. We're happy to proceed. We're happy to recess, and we're happy to go home and see you next week. So.
It's your call, Ms. Kane. I mean, I'm happy to accommodate your request.
I mean, if the next week's and the final week and the two budgets, I was worried that no one was going to have insight. It's a huge budget year. There's huge implications to it. So I wanted to make sure the residents had transparency in what was happening.
Let's recess 10 minutes and come back then.
Yep, that's fine. Okay, we'll take a short recess. Thanks. All right, thanks everyone for staying. I am going to call back to order this meeting of the Middletown Township Board of Supervisors. And so our next agenda item tonight is a 2026 budget workshop presentation. I'm going to turn it over to our Finance Director, Laura Huckelbridge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, everyone, for staying for our revenue budget presentation. We're going to do an overview of our revenue streams, kind of a little education for all of our residents so they understand where our money's coming from. And then we'll go into some actuals and projections for 2025 and a little look at 2026. Here we go again. Oh. Okay, correct way. Here we go. We're going to start with our big red number, our negative 2.8 million deficit. This is the budgeted deficit for 2025. Good news is that right now we're at we're at 2 million deficit, so we're doing a little better than what we budgeted. So that's great news, and we'll get into that a little bit more. But ultimately, we're trying to close this so that we don't have a deficit, so that our revenues cover our expenses every year.
And thank you, Laura, for putting this on a slide. I mean, I think it's why I'm kind of passionate about this. We've been in a deficit for what, since 2023, I think. And it's just one of those things where, like, it's just year after year we're in this deficit. And I just want to thank the staff for, like, again, putting that number out there, because it's something that we've needed to talk about.
Yes, we'd like to present a balanced budget so that we don't have this going forward. All right, who collects your taxes? So taxes can be collected by the township, the school district, and the county. They all have the authority from the state to collect taxes, to provide services. Of those three different taxing authorities up there, the school district is the largest portion of your taxes, by far, comparatively. Middletown has two main sources of revenue. They get taxes and they have fees. The taxes are collected by the elected tax collector, the county, or our other tax firms like Keystone and Berkheimer. The main taxes are the real estate taxes, earned income tax, and real estate transfer tax. There are several other taxes that are Act 511 taxes that are mainly business related, except for the per capita, which is a resident paid tax. Most of those taxes are grandfathered in and we cannot adjust them. The real estate tax and the earned income tax, the township does have the ability to change those different rates year to year to adjust revenue. The other source of income is fees for services. These are collected directly from the township, by the township. There's mandatory fees and what we're calling utilization fees. So under mandatory fees, it's the trash fee, the stormwater fee, fire inspection fees, things like that that are required services. Utilization fees are more optional. They're the park and rec fees that you pay, building and zoning permits, Sesame Place, Oxford Valley Mall, and the school district all use police services. So we have reimbursement contracts with them. So that's a fee right there. This is a breakdown of the township revenue by source. So property taxes, earned income taxes, and the Act 511 taxes make up more than half of our revenue. This is the $43 million that was budgeted total revenue for 2025. So those are our largest sources. And altogether, the taxes and fees go to fund all of the services that you guys want in our community, like police, fire protection, road maintenance, community programs. So fees and taxes are all needed to cover those services. So now we're going to get into real estate taxes, give a little overview of what those are. So the property taxes are based off of a mill, and a mill is just a word for $1 for every $1,000 of value. So based on the assessed value of a property, you can charge a portion, which is this percentage, this mill, of the total value. So in Bucks County, we have an assessed value of all the property, It is not the market value. It is much less than the market value. And the last time the assessment was done was 1972. And as Eden had mentioned to me earlier, that is the oldest assessment that has been done in the state that has not been updated. So we hold a lovely category for that. So I think we have a quiz, a pop quiz for our participants. If you want to participate, you can go to menti.com, menti.com, and enter that code, 589-18947.
And I should also add the board certainly, but also anybody who might be watching this live at home or online can also use that code, who's watching this meeting live, can participate.
And it's completely anonymous, so as you sign in, you're going to be able to participate in the quiz, but we will not know who in the room gives what answer, nor will we be able to see it after the fact. So go into it with confidence. It is a quiz, but it's self-graded.
Yes. So the first question is, what is the average assessed value of a home in Middletown Township? So this is your guess from those ranges, the assessed value.
And this is coming in live, so we have one person
Coming in
who we
live.
know is able to log into Minty. All right, a few more. Here we go.
We got three.
Another few
Any
seconds for a few more
Assessed
people.
is through the township, not
Yes,
not
the
real
county
value.
assessment,
Yep,
the average county assessment.
County assessed value, which is what your tax rate, your real estate tax rate is based off of.
Yes. All right. Well, we've got a tie between 29,000 and 123,000. And the answer is unfortunately 29,000. So a millage, so here we have an example, the estimated market value of $500,000, but the assessed value was only $29,000. So for a value of that home, the township is only getting $560 in real estate taxes. Not very much at all. What percent of your annual real estate tax bill do you think goes to Middletown Township?
Our next
Your
Menti
total-
question.
Yes, next Menti question of all the real estate taxes you pay to the county, the school district, and the township. What do you think goes directly to the township? We've got some good answers there. The actual answer is 8.3% of your real estate taxes go to the township. As I said before, the majority of it goes to the school district. Last question here. How much money does the average household pay to the township each year in real estate tax? All right. So we kind of alluded to it in the previous slide, that it's about $560 is the average amount that each household pays to the township. Okay. So a resident summary here. As we talk about the assessed value, there's a total assessment for the entire township, and that's called the tax base. So the total value is $530 million, but 8.3% is the total real estate taxes that we get of that total assessed value. Here we have different real estate tax totals depending on where you live in the township. The very light blue bottom bar is what the township gets. The dark blue bar at the top is what the district gets, and the little middle portion is the county. So again, as you see, the township gets a very small piece of the total real estate taxes that the residents are paying. This is a history of the assessed property values in Middletown. So we had a high in 2007, and if you see, it's kind of been around the same level, a little higher, a little lower, but the average was around 530 million. This doesn't really increase that much when we have new development, as some people might think it does. New houses come in, but then businesses and some other larger properties submit appeals to have their tax assessment lowered. And the Oxford Valley Mall has actually, they now pay 78% less in taxes now than they did 15 years ago. So that's millions of dollars in tax revenue that we don't get because they had an appeal and they reduced their tax base.
Specifically, since then, it's a $7 million loss to the township and a $28 million loss across all three taxing jurisdictions.
And if I might add to that as well, I think just one of the things we want to, part of why we put this chart together is, we've heard a lot through just the public comment, especially in the land development spaces, there's all of this building, surely there's all, we're adding to the tax base. And while a portion of that is true, we're not talking about the other part that's actually falling off of the tax base. And so this chart here shows, and there's a physical copy in the room here, that in a 17, 18-year look back, it's actually gone down by about 0.75%.
This is just a breakdown of how the taxes are allocated amongst the different funds. So the general fund is our operating fund. That's where most of the expenses for the township come out of. There are portions that are earmarked for our other funds, such as the ambulance and rescue fund, fire protection, debt service. So those other funds each get a piece of the total real estate tax that the township collects. Our next tax is the earned income tax, also called the EIT. Middletown has a 0.5% earned income tax. It is charged to residents and some non-residents. This is withheld by your employer, usually where you work, and then they remit it to where you live. So if you live and work in Middletown, your 0.5% comes to Middletown. If you live in Middletown and work somewhere else, and they have a higher EIT than Middletown, a portion of that tax is going to the township where you work and not where you live. So here we kind of show that for every $100 you earn, 50 cents goes to EIT, and that's only about $260 a year for every $1,000, but it may not all come to Middletown. So here's a little graphic that kind of explains it. If you work in Middletown on the left, your employer withholds your percentage for EIT. Middletown gets the whole thing. On the right, if you work in another town, Middletown only gets 50 cents and the other town gets the other 50 cents of it. So that you're paying that tax, but your township where you live is not benefiting from the full amount.
So I just want to emphasize that. Oh, go ahead, Laura, continue.
No, go ahead.
No, please, go ahead.
This is just one more slide kind of showing where you work in different townships. So if you work in Falls, they have a 1% EIT. Again, half goes to Middletown, half goes to Falls. If you live and work in Middletown, everything comes here. And if you work in the city of Philadelphia, we get nothing. That's just the way it falls.
One of the questions there, so I know we did a resolution a while back on the Sterling Act, because I think they were bringing it back up in the state legislature. Do we know where that is?
There's a lot of work to be done there.
Frank Ferry, it passed through the House in June, and it still hasn't been listed in the Senate. They bring it up every year. So it passed in June of this year, and now they're waiting to bring it to the Senate. But it can still get vetoed by the governor, which he probably will.
So we talked about the taxes. The other source of revenue is fees. So we want to make sure that our fees cover the cost to deliver that service. So we're going to go back and look at those police service reimbursement contracts, as I mentioned, with Sesame Place and the mall and the school district. We want to make sure that the fee that they're paying us actually covers the wages for the officers' time to be there. We're also going to reevaluate the zoning hearing board fees to make sure those fees and permit fees cover the cost of having legal and engineering involved in those proceedings. Right now, the credit card processing fees, if anyone swipes a credit card here to pay for zoning fees or anything else, the township absorbs that cost. And it's, I think, about $20,000 a year, and it's going up as more and more people choose to use the credit card because they don't have to pay the fee right now. We do. Lastly, the program fees, as I mentioned, are park and rec fees. We want to make sure that the fee that people are paying isn't fully subsidized, that it covers the cost to offer those programs. All right, current budget. Again, here's our 2.8 million deficit. All right, I know this may be a little tiny for you, but we have the budget for the general fund on the left, the projection through the end of 2025, and then we have the variances dollar and percentage wise. But if you look at the total operational revenue line, we're projecting 24.5 million, which is less than 200,000 off of budget. So we're 99.3% of budget projected through the end of the year, which is pretty accurate on a $25 million budget for revenues. This slide, again, is the projection, but on the left, it's the 2024 actual numbers for the general fund. So revenue was a little bit higher in 2024. We did see a decrease in real estate taxes, real estate transfer taxes in 2025, along with EIT. As other townships have enacted EIT, we've seen our EIT portion go down. So that's mainly what's driving the difference here year over year. This one has the 2024 actual, 25 budget, 25 projection, and a 2026 budget. These budget numbers for 2026 include no tax increases, no fee increases. This is if all of our percentages stayed the same, just what would that be on the next year's projected revenue numbers. So this year projection is for 2025 is 24.5 million. It would go up to 24.7 million if we changed nothing. This is the summary looking at revenue to expenses. So in 2024, we had a deficit of $1 million. 2025, we budgeted a deficit of 2.8 million. We're projecting a deficit of 2 million. And to note, in 2024, our budget was a deficit of 1.8 million. So we seem to be doing $800,000 better every year, less of a deficit.
And we've just been spending down our fund balance, correct?
For the deficit, yes.
So when we talk about the deficit, one of the things that I would want to hear from township staff, and thankfully we do hear it here, is, when you think about a deficit, people often quickly will go, okay, well, we need more revenue. Well, part of the equation has to be, well, are we cutting expenses? And as you can see here, we're doing that actively, right? So even though the budget was adopted with a $2.8 million deficit, throughout the year, the department heads, the leadership of the township are sharpening their pencils, trying to figure out ways to try to narrow that down, which is why we're looking at a $2 million end of the year deficit. So while 2 million is not great, it's certainly a lot better than 2.8, and the staff, I think, deserves a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, and I'll just say, as elected officials, we see that. I mean, that is tangible. That is something we see township staff doing all the time. I mean, the change from when I started on this board to the current situation, given the revenue situation that we are in, it's really remarkable the amount of effort that staff puts in to try to reduce costs. So it's absolutely appreciated and noted.
So the flip side of that, and while I think they deserve all the credit, and I'm glad we're giving it to them, the budget is a planning tool, right? It's a policy document for the Board of Supervisors who is saying to the community, this is our plan for the next year that is, theoretically in line with a comprehensive plan, with the different master plans we have, and ultimately with your policy priorities. So when you adopt a budget, unless revenues are performing better, or maybe projects are coming in under budget, but they're still, performed to the thought and to the manner that you plan for them, short of that, the question becomes, well, what aren't we doing? what did we plan to do? What did we commit to do to the community that we're all of a sudden not doing? And a lot of times, not saying that that's happening here, sometimes it's deferred maintenance, sometimes we only do a portion of the project, sometimes we push something out to a future year, maybe we cut back on some of our infrastructure maintenance or development, and that really concerns me because to me that's pushing things that need to be done now into the future, and that can really build up, which can create problems in the future. So we sort of have to look at it from both sides.
Yeah, and I think one thing is undeniable is to some degree we've already started that. We've scaled back a lot of things, yeah, and we've been doing that, so.
So looking forward to 2026, as we saw, we have that deficit. There are a couple options that we can use to adjust things to help bring down the deficit and build back up the fund balance. We can reduce services, which again just reduces the amount of money we're spending in the township to keep things up. We can raise fees only. Fees are not going to cover the deficit. That only covers a small portion, maybe a couple $100,000. You could raise fees and an EIT. As I mentioned earlier with EIT, a lot of people are already paying the full 1% to other places if they don't work in Middletown. So that's an option to look at that. Real estate taxes, raise real estate taxes and fees, or you could do all three of them. And we'll be looking at all of these options and analyzing them as we continue to build the operating expense budget and we look at capital. These are just different tools that we're going to be evaluating on how to proceed.
Where do we kind of feel that this is going to land? Like, do we think the option is going to be, reduce services and fees? Like, where do you guys as a staffing look to see this landing ultimately? Like, how much are we going to have to increase in order to kind of get to a place where we are no longer deficit spending?
That's a great question. So this is a process. We're going to be in this room every Monday night in October talking about different areas of the budget. Tonight's revenue. I think next week is operating. We do capital again, and then there's sort of a wrap-up process. So as we get closer and closer to the end of the month and to the beginning of November, it'll sort of hopefully come sort of into light to all of us. Because one of the things that we need is feedback from the community and from the Board of Supervisors of what do you want to see, right? Which option do you like? Do you want to reduce services? Are you interested in some of the revenue levers that are there? How does that shake out with the budget? With capital requests that we've heard and that we'll hear again, same thing on operating. As we go through that process, it sort of kind of flushes out. We can hopefully not have surprises in the beginning of November when we present a proposed balanced budget to the board for consideration.
Okay.
And the last slide is just showing our next two dates. The meeting's on next Monday, the 13th, and again on the 20th in this room at 6 o'clock, discussing more budget. Do you have any questions?
No, I just want to thank you again. Like I said, this is something that's been important to me because I've seen the deficit spending and I've voiced my opinion. I mean, again, we've continuing to increase services, but haven't had any type of ability to increase, what we're bringing in. So it's just been kind of this kick the can down the road that's happened over the past couple of years. It's raising taxes is extremely polarizing, especially in Middletown, right? It's, politics have gotten into it. So it's one of those things where it's going to be a really hard decision for this board to make. It's a decision that this board has not made in, I think, probably since 2014 when the EIT was initially pushed through. There's been small tweaks to the fire tax, but other than that, it has remained the same. So it's really important.
Well, our goal with the presentation tonight was to make sure that residents were aware of what different revenue sources come in, how they're calculated, because taxes are just a big word and it's confusing. So we were hopefully able to communicate that and residents will understand what the options are.
Yeah, I think the one slide really hit on what is the never-ending question or problem that we have to tackle as elected officials, which is residents don't want services decreased. And in fact, what we generally hear from residents is they want more or better or improved services than what they currently get, but they also don't want their taxes to go up. And so I'm proud of the fact that as long as I've been on this board, other than the fire fund, we have not raised taxes a single time. And we've been able to, for the most part, maintain services at this level and even in some instances, I think, increase services. But, I mean, we're feeling it. I know the township staff are feeling it. And over the last few years, we've been dealing with it by scaling back on projects or maybe delaying projects. We've transferred money from the investment fund, but I agree with Ms. Kane. We've reached the point now where what we're doing is not sustainable and not in the best interest of the township, and so we have some very difficult decisions ahead of us. So I do think it's valuable that we're laying all this out now and sort of getting us the starting point for the next couple weeks. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions, any comments from any other supervisors?
Thank you for that presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Hucklebridge. All right, so we just have other business left. I'll start with Mr. Valla.
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Kessler.
Nothing further, thank you.
Mr. Esposito.
Just want to announce that the board held an executive session prior to tonight's meeting to discuss personnel matters.
Mr. Ratliff.
A couple things. Thank you to the budget team and all the department directors who have made sort of the budget development process and the presentation process possible. It's a lot of work internally. It is a lot of work. They're starting to say things like we're going to trap each other into a room until we get things like these poster boards and these presentations and the style of the presentation figured out. So they're doing a great job, and I think it's making this process a lot better. And two, check out your local fire company's fire prevention activities. We have the expo this Saturday, which we heard about at the beginning of the meeting. Next week, there are a few events at the various volunteer fire companies. They're on their social media pages as well as ours. Go out and have a nice time.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Ratliff. Ms. Corporal.
Nothing, thank you.
Ms. Kane.
I'm sorry to keep you guys here just a little bit longer. I know it's a late night, but I wanted to invite residents to a county event that's happening tomorrow in Middletown at 11 a.m. Bucks County Bridge 304 on Silver Lake Road will be dedicated in honor of First Lieutenant Lee Fulton Klickner, a Levittown Langhorne resident who was killed in action on October 25th, 2069. Unfortunately, partisan politics and my affiliation as a Republican led the county to remove and replace me in the speaking schedule. So in honor of First Lieutenant, I would like to read a short words from the speech that I had prepared to deliver at the dedication, just steps from where I grew up. First Lieutenant Klickner served in the U.S. Army during Vietnam. His name appears on the Vietnam Memorial in Washington, D.C. I'd like to share two remembrances that I found online. First, from Lieutenant Steve McNall. Lee and I served in the 4th Brigade, 82nd Airborne Division, 68 to 69, before we both went to NAM. He was executive officer, and I was 3rd platoon leader. I think of Lee often and with the great times we had parachuting and working together. I've always remembered Lee and his wife as wonderful friends to me and Marilyn. I was terribly saddened to learn of his death. We all lost a terrific American. God bless Lee and his family, airborne all the way. Richard White recalled, I knew Lee when he was an Echo platoon leader. He was smart, aggressive, and a fine man. I recall the sadness all of us felt when we learned of his death 38 years ago. I drive over that Silver Lake Bridge on a weekly basis, and growing up down the street in Silver Lake Development, I have fond memories throwing rocks over the side and wading in its creek. I'm grateful for the weekly reminder that I will now have going over that bridge for all of our fallen heroes, and I'm proud that his legacy will live on in Middletown Township.
Thank you, Ms. Kane. Ms. Hanna.
Nothing.
And I have nothing further, so I can accept a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second?
Second.
We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.